to protect the American people and uphold the rule of law. 3 months here in this job, seeing it from this perch has made me feel even more humble. What struck me the most is some of the changes that I've seen, the evolution of the threat, the changes in technology, the capabilities that have been built. And as I've been getting briefed up on the work we're doing to protect the American people and uphold the rule of law in today's environment like we just had in New York, what's really struck me is the magnitude of the threats we face and the diversity of the threats we face. On the terrorism front, in addition to international terrorist groups and homegrown violent extremists, we also have domestic terrorists intending to influence or coerce our government through violent criminal activity. In the cyber arena, we have not only nation states, but also sophisticated criminal actors. And in our counterintelligence work, we face threats from nation states targeting not just our national security secrets, but also our ideas and our innovation. And they're doing so not just through traditional intelligence operatives, but through non-traditional collectors like scientists and students and businessmen. On the terrorism issue in particular, my prior experience had been very focused on large, structured organizations like al-Qaeda. And to be clear, we still confront threats from organizations like al-Qaeda planning large-scale attacks over long periods of time. But we also face groups like ISIS, who use social media to recruit followers remotely and to inspire people to take to the streets with crude but effective weapons like hatchets and vehicles. Smaller in scale but greater in volume, these organizations, if you can call them organizations, move from plotting to action in a very short period of time with very little planning, using low-tech and widely available attack methods. On top of that, these terrorists' use of social media and encryption technology has made it harder to find their messages of hate and destruction, leaving even fewer footprints or dots for us to connect. The good news is that I have also been very impressed and pleased at the progress that the FBI has made since I was last working with them, particularly in the areas of intelligence integration and partnerships. Intelligence is now heavily integrated into every program the FBI has, made it hard into our overall mission, our training, and it drives really everything we do. In addition to that, the scope and strength of the partnerships that the Bureau now has with our federal partners, our state and local counterparts, the members of the intelligence community, and our international partners are at a whole new level compared to what I saw when I was in government before. So while remarkable progress has been made, we cannot become complacent, and we need to keep improving to ensure that we're up to the task and getting ahead of the threat. As one example, we are now at risk of losing one of the key tools in our toolkit that is invaluable to all of our national security programs that I just mentioned. As I mentioned at the beginning, the speed and agility of our terrorist and intelligence adversaries has increased at a tremendous pace, putting a huge premium on matching that speed and agility with our ability to connect the dots. And that's why reauthorization of FISA Section 702, which expires in just a few weeks, is so incredibly important to our work. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have to help us evaluate leads and prioritize threat information. It can tell us quickly whether a person here in the U.S. has ties to a terrorist overseas or if there's someone overseas who's planning an attack. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, members of this committee, I look forward to working with you on these and other significant challenges, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Director. Chair recognizes the NCTC Director, Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Member Thompson and members of the committee. As I mentioned during my testimony before the committee last year, the array of terrorist actors around the globe is broader, wider, and deeper than it has been at any point since September 11, 2001. And as we meet here today, the discipline of terrorism prevention is literally changing beneath our feet every day, and it requires that we respond with extraordinary agility and flexibility. I'd like to take the opportunity today to share what I've seen in the way of changes in the terrorism landscape since I last testified before the committee. And I'll also say a few words about areas where we can do a better job of tackling the threat of those in the homeland who are mobilized to extremist violence and to strengthen our CT capabilities. So let me begin with what's changed or what's new with the overall threat. And those developments fall into three primary areas. The first of these is the coalition's success in shrinking the territory that ISIS controls in Iraq and Syria as compared to a year ago. The second major trend is an uptick in attacks inspired by ISIS that we've seen against Western interests around the globe in the last year, as compared to attacks that are directed by the group from their headquarters in Iraq and Syria. And the third trend I would point to is the resurgence of aviation threats, reaching a level of concern that we in the intelligence community have not faced since AQAP's printer package plot back in 2010. So to start first with ISIS's losses on the battlefield. ISIS is clearly facing significant battlefield pressure from U.S. forces and the coalition, and the size of the territory the group controls is shrinking day by day. As ISIS copes with that territorial loss, though, the group will look to preserve its capabilities by operating more as a covert terrorist organization and as an insurgency from its few remaining strongholds in Iraq and Syria. Now, this is undoubtedly good news. We are winning on the battlefield. But unfortunately, territorial losses have not translated into a corresponding reduction in the group's ability to inspire attacks, even including here at home. And over the last year, ISIS has inspired numerous attacks, particularly in the UK and Europe, and most recently right at home, as has been discussed earlier, in New York City on Halloween. The number of arrests and disruptions we've seen around the globe, while that is a testament to effective law enforcement and intelligence work, it also tells us that the global reach of ISIS remains largely intact, even as the group is being decisively defeated on the battlefield. Now, that uptick in inspired attacks stands in contrast to the pattern of attacks we saw that were directed and enabled by the group from Syria in 2015 and 2016. So far this year, though, we have not seen the group successfully direct a large-scale sophisticated attack like the Paris and Brussels attacks in previous years. But the number of inspired attacks, as Director Ray mentioned, is clearly on the rise. And all of this underscores our belief that there's not a direct link between the battlefield position of ISIS in Iraq and their capacity to continue inspiring external attacks.
All right, folks, welcome to the Fox 10 News Now stream. We are taking you out live now to Detroit, where there is a rally for Congressman Conyers.
Then we need to come up with real solutions instead of engaging in crass sensationalism. Solutions like we have had in the past, when Carl Levin penned whistleblower laws and President George Bush then signed it, and President Barack Obama then expanded it. Those were real solutions. Nobody's talking about Congressman Brenda Lawrence's proposal that we have training on harassment for all elected officials who will be serving. What we need to start doing is creating ways that we can have real equal protection under the law, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of class. People need equal access to resources and equal access to protection. Anything else is sound and fury, signifying nothing. So on behalf of Dr. Charles Gilchrist Adams and all of those people of goodwill who have turned out today, we welcome you to our humble way station. Let us get the dialogue going.
I come back briefly while I am flanked by several members here of the ecumenical community, of the elected community, and the grassroots community, to just share a snippet of what Congressman Conyers means to me. I take great pride of getting my roots in working in politics, even working for city council, but having an opportunity to have and garner from these great soldiers, like the Honorable Teola Hunter that's standing here, like the Honorable Joanne Watson. I work for the late Clyde Cleveland, and so I glean from their strong roots and the tenacity and the grit and the perseverance that they have provided me as a foundation. In my years of working alongside Congressman Conyers, I didn't even have some of the confidence that he helped to tease out in me. We would actually talk about one of the greatest projects that we worked on together was during 2010, Proposal S, when he said he had talked to President Obama personally about the infrastructure dollars that we must bring back to the city of Detroit. And so I went with him and I talked about that. As a former teacher, I needed his help in talking about education reform. He provided that platform, and he would challenge me, and he would ask me questions. Those that are educators understand what it means to scaffold someone's learning. He would tease out and ask those questions, and then he thrust me into opportunities. At Greater Emmanuel Church on 7 Mile and Schaefer, when we were going around talking about these proposals, and we went there as a delegation, myself and some of the staff members, and then he said, okay, well, I'm going to leave, but you stay here. And I said, I stay here and do what? He said, I want you to get up and speak. I want you to speak about the importance of these dollars coming back and talk about the importance of our kids having quality education. And I said, Congressman Conyers, I don't think I'll know what to say. He said, you're going to know what to say. I've been talking to you for months about this. And so he instilled in me the confidence that I could stand before that church, Greater Emmanuel, among all those people and talk about the importance. And yes, that proposal passed. But he's done so many other things. I've gone to Washington to shadow him, and he sent me to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and he told me, don't be afraid. Go in there and you tell them what you're looking for. And we brought them back, and we partnered with the NAACP and the National Congress of Black Women to have Education Town Hall down at Cobo Hall. He lent his name to my education reform and advocacy. And not only that, people don't talk about this. When he brought and paid for students to come from Detroit, to come to D.C. and not stay in a rinky-dink hotel, but a wonderful hotel. And he exposed them to the U.S. Department of Education so that we could have black and brown children speaking to the issues in their schools. That's what I saw of Congressman John Conyers. And I spent a great deal of time with him and his team. And so we're calling on the moral core of this nation to not treat us any different than anyone else. That we deserve to select and elect our leaders. We deserve to not be cast aside and only used as the mule to carry the boat. Our voices have meaning. Our voice have meaning. And our leadership that you see represented here today has meaning. I'm going to bring one to you that is more oratorical than I. Reverend Wendell Anthony of the NAACP and pastor of Fellowship Chapel.
I think Sherry and Yogo did very well. So let me say good morning to all of you. And I want to thank the members of the media for being here and thank all those who were here, my sisters and brothers. And it is interesting that we're all here on this Monday morning. And some of us have different philosophical bends. We have differences on many issues. But we have one commonality today. Yes. And it is called due process. Yes. It's called due process. Can everybody in the audience simply say due process? Due process. Due process. Due process. Due process. And I know that the media may be looking for certain sound bites, but I want you to take from this morning that we are here for due process. I have a statement, and then I'm going to introduce the executive of Wayne County, the Honorable Warren Evans. One of the distinct differences between our nation, the United States of America, and many others is a system called due process. Yeah. We are a nation of laws with a constitution that has been modeled by many countries across the globe. It is with this understanding that we are here to call for due process for every citizen in America, which also includes Congressman John Conyers, Jr. What is due process? Due process is the legal requirement that the state must respect all legal rights that is owed to a person. Yeah. Due process balances the power of law of the land and protects the individual person from it. When a government harms a person without following the exact course of the law, This constitutes a due process violation which offends the rule of law. The 5th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution each contains a due process clause. Due process deals with the administration of justice, and thus the due process clause acts as a safeguard against arbitrary denial of life, liberty, or property by the government outside the sanction of the law. The phrase due process, in case you are not aware, first appeared in the statutory rendition of the Magna Carta in 1354. With that historic background and the knowledge of a belief that everyone is entitled to due process, why are we subverting one of the very pillars upon which this nation is founded, on the back of a man who has served this nation for 53 and a half years? We are not here because we do not respect and appreciate and honor and love and appreciate women or men. You can look around. There are a number of women who are all here, standing and sitting. We are here not because we do not respect them, because we have daughters, wives, sisters, mamas, and grandmamas, and aunties. Yet we do call for fairness. Why is it that John Conyers is the only individual to be denied due process of law by the same body which is supposed to uphold and defend the due process of the law? It is apparent that if we are going to raise this unholy and unlawful guillotine, calling for the head of John Conyers, then in fairness we must begin with the President of the United States. We must begin there. Mr. Trump currently has 15 women who have accused him of sexual harassment and even molestation by some. He has told the world and embarrassed our nation how he treats women by forcing himself upon them without their permission, by lip kissing and grabbing their private parts. Yet he has not been asked to resign. Why have we not called for the resignation of Representative Ruben Shaheen of Nevada, accused of sexual harassment of this campaign finance director? Why have we not called for the resignation of Texas Representative Blake Farenthold, who used $84,000 of taxpayer money to solve a sexual harassment lawsuit with the female staff? Why have we not called for the immediate resignation of Texas Representative Joe Biden for posting nude, crude, and lewd photos of himself on the internet while tweeting and unwanted sexual diatribes to different women? Why have we not called for the immediate resignation from the campaign and passed a resolution in the House or the Senate, if elected, that he not be seated for Alabama Senator candidate Roy Moore? Moore has been accused of sexual molestation and misconduct with over 8 women, and 3 of whom were underage at the time. Moore has even been banned from shopping at the mall for stalking, and now some want to elect him to the Senate hall for voting. We say if Congress goes, then Moore has to go. And why have we not called for the resignation of Senator Al Franken, accused in the sexual misconduct of 5 women currently seated and representing the state of Minnesota? Finally, if we are going to call for the resignation of John Conyers, should we not also call for the resignation of those who settled for $17 million in taxpayer funding to victims of harassment, which includes sexual harassment in the current Congress of the USA? We believe that it is unfair to the citizens who elected John Conyers as their representative. They should be respected in their right to vote, to have due process. This response from Speaker Pelosi and certain members our system of due process. And quite frankly, it suppresses the right to vote. It does not elevate the people, but it diminishes the people. John Conyers is entitled to everything that every other citizen in America is entitled to, and that is due process of the law. My pleasure to introduce the Executive of Wayne County, the Honorable Herm Edwards.
Good morning. John Conyers has spent over 50 years protecting the rights of everyone in this country. Yes. The unmitigated gall and audacity to try to take those basic rights away from him. Due process is a sin and a shame. It could be nothing else. Due process is the foundation of what we are all entitled to. This has nothing to do, what I'm saying now has nothing to do with being pro-John or against women's rights. It is about doing what's right. That's right. Until there's due process, until we know what has been alleged, then as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing for anybody to get excited about. And for those in the United States Congress to call for his resignation is shameful. Shameful. How do you, in the light of due process, form your lips to ask a living legend, regardless of who it is? In this case, it's a living legend. In many other cases, it may not be. But the rule of law is still the same. Due process is still critically important. Until we know what happened, I can't even fathom a Nancy Pelosi or a Dan Kildee or anybody else asking for the resignation of a man who has not been given an opportunity for due process and has done in his body of work so much for us. I have been investigating cases for over 40 years. I know what an investigation is. And where the chips fall is where they fall after the investigation, after the due process. It is way past the time in this country for us to presume people are guilty until proven innocent. That is not the way it's supposed to work. And we do that even outside of this case. If we all internally sit there and think about it ourselves, we are way too quick to jump to judgment about everybody. So let this be a constitutional thought process for everybody. People are innocent until they're proven guilty. And due process is a work of art. It's a term of art. In criminal cases, it's something. In other cases, it's something else. But you have a right to listen to your accuser. You have a right to respond to your accuser. And you have a right to have an individual, independent body assess the facts and make a determination. Until that happens, they've got nothing. And this is wrong. Thank you.
As Pastor Charles Williams come up and say, due process! Due process! Due process! Due process! Due process! Reverend Charles Williams. We're gonna, I don't see Pastor Charles, I see a lot of pastors. I see the congressman's pastor. Pastor Nathan Johnson. He was here. Pastor Nathan Johnson, the pastor of Congressman John Conyers of Tabernacle.
Thank you so much. Much has been said, and I will underscore what has been said, that this is a matter about what is right. Of justice, and I was thinking that simply, that how can you deny one who has been a drum major for justice to hear the music of justice? How can you deny one who has been on the front lines to make sure others were treated fairly and justly and not allow him to have that. Exactly. I'm concerned in this country that we have come to such a time that we can have an allegation and it can turn over and upside down one's long tenure and reputation. So I came today, I had to be here, because I'm privileged to serve as the Conyers pastor. Yes. And I wanted to be here because I believe that he deserves due process. And I just want to make sure, as Pastor Anthony said, you leave here with the right thing. This is not merely a rally about how much we love Congressman John Conyers, and we do. But this is a rally about what is right, because if they do it to him, they will do it to the rest of us. Thank you.
And they do it to us unequivocally. I want to call a delegation of county members, those that are serving currently in the county, Wayne County Clerk Kathy Garrett, Wayne County Commissioner Alicia Bell, Wayne County Commissioner Martha Scott, Wayne County Commissioner Joel Ware. I saw another commissioner, there she is over there, Mother Scott, and Joel Ware. And Honorable Keith Williams.
Good morning. I'll be brief in my comments because our point of business has been established here this morning. But I could not, in good conscience, not be standing here today. It is given that the congressman has been a mentor, a supporter of many of us up here. However, it's been established that this is not about politics. It's about what's right and what's wrong. So today, we know what our marching orders are. I stand here, and we all collectively stand here in the gap for Congressman Conyers, praying for his health and demanding due process.
I am Wayne County Commissioner Irma Clark Coleman. I'm not speaking about the congressman who I've been told about. I'm speaking about the congressman that I have known since the 60s. I've known John Conyers since before he became a congressman. I worked in his office back in the 60s when he had not even run for office. John was always a gentleman. He never was anything more than just a very friendly, very gentleman. So I'm not speaking of the John Conyers that people told me about. I'm speaking of the John Conyers that I know. And this man is an honorable man. Yeah. I don't stand here to dispute any allegations, but I know this man. And I know that he is a wonderful and honorable man. And we need to give him due process. He needs to be able to go before a committee and defend himself. If you allow this to happen, anyone can step up there and accuse me or you or anyone else of wrongdoing. And if you're not able to defend yourself and then call you to step aside, that's wrong. So I just say, I too wish the congressman great health. I hope that he comes out of this, but I also hope that he does not step down. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Martha G. Scott, Wayne County Commissioner, and have served for the last 40 years in different offices. I met Congressman Conyers before I even got involved in politics. When I was working at Michigan Bell, when Shirley Chisholm was running for President of the United States. And one of my friends said to me, if she can run for president, you can certainly be a precinct delegate. Shirley Chisholm was my idol. Yes. I was with her even at her graveside because I believed in a person like a Shirley Chisholm and a Congressman John Conyers who have stood up. I was born in the South and I went through some things. they feel that they got. So they couldn't even wait for due process. Give him the same treatment that everyone else gets. And I stand here demanding it today of my 40 years in this political arena. So I thank God for him, and I wish him a speedy recovery. And don't you step down, Congressman. Until all of us say so. And we're not going to say it. Thank you. May God bless each and every one of us.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Alicia Bell, Vice Chair of the Wayne County Commission, on behalf of our Chairman, Gary Warrenchuck, and our Vice Chair Pro Tem, Jewel Ware. I'm here to say, what are we here for? What are we here for? I'm going to be brief because things have been said, but not by everybody. I'm just going to say this. I and all of us here stand on the shoulders of Congressman John Conyers. If not for Congressman John Conyers, there would be none of us here today. So we have to respect him. We have to give him the due process that every citizen in this country deserves. I'm so happy to see everyone here because we all acknowledge that if he goes, as my dear colleague said, it could be us. So we have to make sure that we stand up, that we demand that he does not resign, and he gets the due process that he deserves. So I'm saying again, why are we here? Why are we here? God bless you, and may the God willing help John Conyers in his health, and we are here for him as anybody else. God bless you all.
Brief remarks now from Sam Riddle, representing the National Action Network, and Mother Green of the Helen Lord, representing the Keep the Vote, No Take Off. Oh, she said, you still have it. Oh, okay. She gave me marching orders. All right.
Here, Helen, come.
All right, I'm here to make a confession. John Conyers kissed me from the time I was 12 all the way up to now. Every time we saw each other, we grew up in the same neighborhood. We hugged and kissed, then we married. So, what this is all about. Maybe they think they got the big fish now. They got John Conyers. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm so proud of all of you that are here today to support due process. Not going to talk long. I've got to go to D.C., take care of our children. But one thing I want you to know, John Conyers and I have a saying. We don't do second-class citizenship. All right. Say it. You should be saying the same thing because some of the people that are not in this room that sell out every time the white people tell them what to do, they are the ones that are traitors, not only to us, who he worked for us, but also to them. So I'm hoping that I leave this pulpit right now, and I want all of us to repeat together. So when you walk out of here, you'll be strong and you will be fighting for the right of John Conyers and all of us to have due process. We don't do second-class citizenship. Say it again. We don't do second-class citizenship. All right. Keep the vote. Keep the vote. No justice. No peace.
Some of us have been in the furnace. Some of us are tested by fire. And for those that wanted to know, and there were those, like vultures perching on a limb, who wanted to know why is Sam Riddle giving the medical update on the congressman in front of the Conyers house? If you don't know, you ought to ask somebody. You know, 11 years ago, one of these serial accusers, I had to deal with her, Deanna Meyer, on CNN. Then I said, and it was accepted. As a matter of fact, they kind of went away, but they came back. That's what the nature of a serial accuser is. They came back. Matter of fact, called me a scumbag, which is somewhat of a compliment, given that 3 weeks ago, Kid Rock called me a Sam Riddle's a criminal POS. Why is that? Same reason maybe Peter, national president, said something bad. It's because in Detroit, we fight back. That's right. In Detroit, we fight back. In Detroit, we fight back. In Detroit, march was going down. I don't know if Minister Troy left or whatnot, but Congressman Conyers had me set up a meeting with the Attorney General, Janet Reno. When I set up that meeting, I also informed the Attorney General that Minister Leonard Farrakhan Mohammed would be joining us. Well, when the meeting went down, there was a little bit of a meeting of the eyes between the straight ties and the bow ties when the Fruit of Islam rolled into Reno's territory. When we went upstairs to meet, I want you to understand this. This is Congressman Conyers telling her that the mall is going to be filled with over 1 million black men. Well, she didn't quite believe it. But when we got up to the meeting, she did a ballet pirouette and said, my meeting is with the congressman alone, and totally dissed the Nation of Islam. The congressman and I sat down, and one thing I want to make clear is the congressman stood tall for the Nation of Islam, for black Americans, for the disenfranchised who have been subjected to systemic racism. He's done that all his life. We know about that. But what we don't seem to focus in on enough are the phony white liberals that take our support for granted. So, as I wrap up, I just want you to know, Nancy Pelosi, I want you to know, Dan Gilden, that one of the reasons we lost Michigan and America to Donald Trump is because of your misleadership, Nancy Pelosi. One of the reasons we lost Michigan is because of phony liberals like you, Dan Gilden. And it hurts me to say that because I did Gilden's first campaign when he ran for Board of Education. But in Detroit, we fight back. We're going to continue to fight back. No justice. No justice. No justice. Thank you.
When our brothers and sisters are being profiled and being disrespected as they travel the country, our Middle Eastern brothers and sisters, I had an opportunity to attend an event in Ypsilanti that was hosted by a number of these leaders throughout our community, our Arabic, our Chaldean. All of those members realize the essence of who Congressman John Conyers is. Today we have Chairman Nasser Beydoun here today to speak on behalf of the Middle Eastern community.
Thank you. First of all, I'm honored that I can stand with all these great people to talk about John Conyers. I have a distinct pleasure that John Conyers is my congressman. And John Conyers represents the largest Arab and Muslim community in the United States. And when you have a president that's a racist and an Islamophobe, there is nobody that I want representing me other than John Conyers. If you choose, the only people that can choose whether John Conyers goes or stays are the people who vote for John Conyers. And we are making a statement that my brother Naveed and I and all of our community that is in his district, we will vote for John Conyers as long as he chooses to run. And we will support John Conyers. And if you plan to take out the dean, you better be ready for a fight. And John Conyers, we wish him good Godspeed, good health, and hope that he's going to be our congressman for a long time. And thank you.
I saw Virgie Ronalds, who's worked very closely with the congressman. I think she left. She may have left. There are a number of pastors here, and I don't want to start calling pastors' names, but I see representation from the Council of Baptist Pastors, Pastor Bland. I see representation of my pastor, Bishop Charles Ellis from the PAW. I see Reverend Lonnie Pete in the house. I don't know who else I'm missing, but there's several pastors. At the state level, we have all of our representatives here. 13th Congressional District Chair, Jonathan Kinlock. Pastor Dr. Charles, get on your feet! Dr.
sanctuary of Hartford Memorial Baptist Church.
Thank you, sir.
Which is 100 years old. And we are here totally by the grace of God. There's nobody here that has not made a mistake. There's nobody here that has never committed a sin. Every day I get up, I say, forgive us our sin.
Yes, sir.
For we are not perfect.
That's right.
But we are in the schoolhouse of faith.
Yes.
And the end result of faith and prayer is forgiveness.
That's correct.
And I believe somebody said somewhere in Chronicles, the 7th chapter and 7th verse, if my people will call by my name, they will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. And I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. You turn to it and put everything in there, because everything in this book is true.
It's all right, I do have honorary membership over here at Hartford, although I'm at Great Grace. I'm going to call up Nancy Quarles. Where is she? Nancy Quarles, is she still here? Jonathan Kinlock? Come on down. Members of the Michigan Democratic Party representing us, and I want them to take back the message. We don't do partial citizenship. That's right. Tell the party chair, respect our vote. Respect our vote. Due process for John Conyers. All right.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Quarles. I am the vice chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. All right. And I want you to know that we are here, the Michigan Democratic Party, for due process. Yes. We have no intention of negating, neglecting, or forgetting due process. And on behalf of the chair and the executive board of the Michigan Democratic Party, we do stand strongly behind due process.
Good afternoon, I'm Jonathan Kinlock, chair of the 13th Congressional District, which is the home of our Congressman, our Dean, John Conyers. To Nancy Pelosi and to James Claiborne and anyone else in Congress who's calling for the resignation of Congressman John Conyers before any investigation has been concluded, we say hell no. We stand strong with our congressman and we only call for due process. How can we not call for due process for someone who has fought for 50 years to make sure that the civil rights for each and everyone in this country was protected? So we definitely call for due process and also call for him not to resign.
While we have lots of representation, we just have two more speakers. Minister Malik Shabazz, representing the Marcus Garvey movement. We'll have our call to action represented from the state, the Honorable Teola P. Hunter, and then the Honorable Joanne Watson will take us to our call to action. Three.
Giving honor to God, it's the head of the God of my life. Let's give God a hand.
Yes.
And let's thank Representative Sherry Gay Gallardo for her leadership and everyone here. And yourself, give yourself a hand clap. Congressman John Conyers stood tall. When the votes came up through all these years to cut food stamps, education money, aid to the cities, fund the war budget, Congressman Conyers voted on behalf of the people. Let's give him a hand clap. Now in this nation, they say we have a right to due process. The congressman has called for an investigation. There will be an investigation, and there should be no resignation. Let's give God a hand clap. If it's going to be a resignation, then let's start on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C.
We always respect our matriarchs, and we are thankful that I see the Honorable Alberta Talati up top, but we want to give deference to the Honorable Teola P. Hunter to have remarks, and then we'll have our call to action.
All right. I'd like to say good morning to everyone. Good morning. My heart is full to see everyone out here today to speak about a man who did not just walk the walk, but he talked the talk. And he did it. And he did what he had to do. We are really honored. I have known John Conyers, well, you know, I'm just 21 years old. When I first got into politics, over 40 years ago, John Conyers was the first person who was an elected official who just grabbed me by the arm and helped me know the ropes. And I appreciate John Conyers. I have known the Conyers family for many years. I taught at Sampson School. Well, the Conyers family went to school. So their history is long and viable. So I say to you today, we do want due process. Right? Friends, and let everyone emphasize, we want due process. Amen. Amen.
I hope you all have signed in and we have your contact information, because after this call to action, we're ready to take our action to the road to Washington, D.C. if we have to. We don't mind going to the White House, to the U.S. House of Representatives, to let them know that we demand, we're not asking, we're not crumpling our hat in our hands. We are demanding due process. The Honorable John Watson will give the call to action.
We are called to act. So no. Because Congressman Conyers is the only person ever endorsed by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We're called to act. Because Congressman John Conyers is the person who found salary for Mother Rosa Parks for almost 25 years. We're called to act. We're not excusing any allegations of harassment or sexual misconduct. We're not excusing that. I'm a woman. We want Pelosi and everybody in Congress to know that if you want to call for anything, you better call for the implementation of H.R. 40. Because sexual harassment cannot be defined in this country without addressing African women who were lynched, thrown and quartered, who had babies cut out of their stomach, who had OBGYN practice on our bodies, who had babies stolen from us. Humanity we deserve in this country. So let the narrative of sexual harassment address black women, African women who have never had their due process in this country. Call for that. We call for due process.
then we pray again. We're going to close out with prayer by Pastor Lonnie Peake, and then we'll take questions.
Dear Lord, we come today, first of all, thanking you for your grace and your mercy. Lord, we can spend the rest of the day just thanking you. That will not be enough time. But Lord, we come lifting up your servant here, John Conyers. He has given his all. He has given his all to human rights. He's given his all to be right. So Lord, as he goes through this difficult time, we ask for the power.
All right, everybody, welcome to News Now here. We're going to start with our Fox 10 Extra show in just about 5 minutes. We're going to have all the news concerning the new ASU football coach, Herm Edwards. He is going to be introduced in just a little bit. And Jude, I see your shot here, and I see that you're dialed in. Jude, can you hear me?
Jude's walking this way, Mike. Jude is walking this way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it's smart, better. Too crowded in there. Your wipe downs?
I got it.
I'm not hearing anything.
Hey, Jude, I'm going to be with you here in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Jude. All right, everybody watching on the News Now. We're just about 2 minutes away, and Jude, I'll be right with you there all about ASU. Welcome, welcome. And welcome everyone to News Now. It is Monday, December 4th, 2017. You're taking a live look at downtown Phoenix. A lot going on here today on News Now. Hi everybody, Mike Page shares. We're going to be taking feeds from all over the country right now, including right here in Arizona with some big news with the ASU program for football. Our very own Jude LaCava coming up in just a couple of seconds right here on News Now. A little bit later on the show, we'll have President Trump live in Utah talking about some national monuments there that's going to be shrinking in size. That should be happening about 11:15 our time here in Arizona. But let's not wait any longer right now. Let's bring in the man of the hour right here, our very own Jude LaCava, to break down the new ASU head coach, Herm Edwards, that's going to be introduced in just a little bit. Hi, Jude. How you doing today? All right, it looks like Jude's having a little bit of problems there, maybe with the audio. We'll try to get back with him in just a little bit. Hey, Jude, can you hear me? Okay, we got him. We have Jude here. So, Jude.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So, Jude, big day here.
How are you?
Good, good. Big day for ASU. Herm Edwards going to be the new head coach. What do we know?
Well, I think that it is certainly a very significant day. I mean, when you look at this decision, it's been described by some as certainly out of the box, a very unique decision by ASU Athletic Director Ray Anderson. I think, you know, there's obvious reasons why. I mean, Herm Edwards comes over as a nationally recognized NFL commentator. He's a guy that spent the last 7-8 years as an NFL analyst on ESPN. Before that, he was the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and before that, the head coach of the New York Jets, and a longtime player in the league back in the late 70s through mid-80s. So, you know, it's interesting and it's unique in a sense that Herm Edwards is not a current college football coach. The last time he coached in college was 1989 with San Jose State. So I think you have to look at those elements of his body of work, and then also realize, though, that on the plus side, he is a very dynamic speaker. You know, he's a guy that certainly can inspire young people, no doubt about that. I think that certainly is a question as well. And then I think, you know, one of the interesting issues for ASU is, does this model work from a standpoint that can somebody well-known on ESPN get into Los Angeles, get into Texas, get into the Bay Area, and really recruit and close the deal on top, you know, 4- and 5-star recruits? Because I think that was one of the issues that Ray Anderson addressed the previous Sunday when they decided to move forward beyond Todd Graham. So those are some of the unique issues. It's certainly unique because he is not a current college football coach. Yes, there's an arrangement, and there was an arrangement. Ray Anderson was once his agent, and that's part of this. So there's some interesting questions. I think this is going to be a very intriguing press conference, to say the least. But this is certainly a path less traveled, if you will, for an athletic director at a Pac-12 conference, not taking a current college football coach. Having said that, I can't tell you how many times I've heard from a lot of NFL people that know Herm, whether it be Mike Golick, who we talked to last week, or whether it be Seth Joyner, one of the outstanding linebackers in NFL history, really over the last 15, 20 years, vouching for Herm Edwards, saying he is going to be dynamic, he is going to be an inspiring figure, he's going to be an excellent figurehead, CEO type for this program. He's going to be a guy that essentially brings national attention to the ASU football program, something that maybe they haven't had for a while. So those are some of the positives and some of the concerns as we look at this new era for ASU football.
Yeah, and Jude, what can we expect for him to say that would really maybe pump up some of the Sun Devil fans at this press conference today? What are some of the key things that we need to listen to from Herm Edwards to kind of get excited for the next season here?
Well, that's a good question. I think that there's going to be a new model. You know, we're hearing Ray Anderson, who comes from the NFL, was really a guy that spent a number of years there under Commissioner Roger Goodell. He's going to take an NFL model. What do I mean by that? Well, basically a development program for players similar to a general manager position in the National Football League. And my guess is it's going to be a little bit more hands-on contact when it comes to taking some of these young players and looking at their skill set. Not only that, raising the bar in terms of what their expectation level is. We'll get an explanation of that. That is certainly a unique and interesting concept, taking a concept from the NFL, a development program for your young players, and then having them essentially evolve under this type of instruction. We'll get an explanation on that. I think, Sun Devil fans are going to sit there, Mike, and say, okay, look, we've been kind of stuck in mediocrity, although I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Todd Graham didn't do a number of positive things. I thought he was outstanding this year, going 7-5. I mean, look, this team was picked to finish 5th in the Pac-12 South, and they finished 2nd. They beat their rival. 46-31 is a very respectable record in any conference at any time during any era. So I think that is the positive side of what Graham brought to the table. And let's not forget he was once Pac-12 Coach of the Year. In his 2nd and 3rd year, the program won 10 games those seasons number 2 and number 3 under Todd Graham. So I think this is not an easy act to follow. I think Todd did a very good job when it comes to academics. The GPA combined cumulative for the program was around 3.0. I think you didn't see any of the real off-the-field issues that you may have seen with his predecessor. So this is a tough act to follow in some regard. I think the biggest thing that Sun Devil fans want to see is this program capable of jumping over UCLA now with Chip Kelly and USC now that they're back, and of course now Pac-12 champions this year. Those are the things that I think they want to see. Is there a way? Is there a model? Is there an avenue to take this program and make it relevant when it comes to championships? And Ray is taking a very big leap, saying that this is a very different way to do it, but I believe it can be done. And the guy that's going to be in charge of it is Herm Edwards. Now, keep in mind, he wants both coordinators to stay on. Phil Bennett did a very good job, veteran defensive coordinator. Look at the numbers he put up this year defensively, very good. And Billy Napier, probably one of the better young coaches as the offensive coordinator, did an excellent job with Manny Wilkins in the offense. And let's not forget, they had some banner wins this year. They beat Washington. At that time, they were number 5 in the country. They beat Oregon. They won at Utah. They beat Arizona. And now they'll go on to the Sun Bowl to take on North Carolina State on December 29th. So, it's going to be a very, I would say, unknown factor here moving forward. What does this new model mean? What does Herm Edwards bring to the table? And can he bring national attention? And does that translate into signing top flight recruits? I think one of the biggest concerns that Ray Anderson had and discussed during his press conference when he decided to move away from Todd Graham is, can we compete against USC and UCLA? Can we recruit in California? Are we going to be able to close the deal on some really top flight players that will come to ASU and decide not to go to USC? Can we recruit at times nationally? Those are the things, if I'm a fan, if I'm a Sun Devil football fan, I certainly want to own Arizona. I want to own the top 5 or 6 high school programs in the state of Arizona. I want to get these top quarterbacks and top linemen and top receivers out of this state. I want to be able to recruit California. And then I want to be able to pick off some top players around the country and bring them to Tempe. That's the only way. The lifeblood of any major college football program is recruiting. So that's where you have to go with this. And I think that'll be the first big test for Herm Edwards. He's got to learn compliance. He's got to understand the limitations that exist in the NCAA Division I recruiting rules. And then he's got to kind of show the fans that he's bringing in these top flight players.
Yeah, there you go, Jude. And what do you say to some of the critics of the program that say, really, Herm Edwards? He hasn't coached in college since, 1989. How is he going to try to reinvigorate this program? So what do some of the people say about that?
Well, I think that's one of the concerns is that, he's been an NFL guy. He did have a chance to get the Jets to the playoffs a couple of seasons. It didn't quite work out in Kansas City. Some people may even remember the HBO series where he had a chance to kind of strut his stuff, so to speak, as an inspiring figure. But it really goes back to 1989 and San Jose State when he was a defensive backfield coach the last time he was involved in college football. So that I'm sure that question's going to come up. I think one of the more interesting moments in his career, and you may remember this from some of the old NFL Films footage, this happened way back in the late 70s, early 80s. They call it the Miracle at the Meadowlands, a very famous play. One of the most famous debacles, really, in NFL history is when Joe Pisarcik, all he had to do was take the snap and take a knee, and the Giants were going to win that football game. Well, he fumbled the snap, and then Herm Edwards, Johnny on the spot, picked up the fumble, took it into the end zone, and the Eagles at that time won the game in one of the most remarkable finishes we've seen during a regular season game. Let's also point out this. I mean, he learned under a very dynamic, successful coach in Dick Vermeil. If you remember, back in 1980, the Eagles played the Raiders. The Eagles at that time made it to their very first Super Bowl. If you remember, Ron Jaworski was their quarterback, some of your old school fans out there, and Herm Edwards was on that team. So you have to look at the fact that there's been success. Vermeil is a very emotional, passionate type of coach that he broke in under with the Eagles back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions to this, Mike. I mean, I don't think there's any denying the fact that this is a very unorthodox hire.
Yeah, and Jude, no doubt about that. But sometimes, you know, you get those people that a lot of people say, "Oh, really?" But then you never know what the season could bring, and it could be just a big pick. And who knows? Maybe next year we're talking about look at the pick that ASU had for this coach and the belief system they had in him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, here's the basic premise is that if you're going to be an innovator, are you willing to take a risk? Are you willing to do something so out of the box that it has the potential of working? And I will say this about Ray Anderson. You know, I can't tell you the last time we had such a mixed bag, if you will, of comments for and against this hire on Twitter. You know, I've put out there over the last few days when this story kind of came out that it looked like it was going to be Herm Edwards. And I have to tell you, there were some fans saying, no, you're kidding me, this isn't going to work. And then there were some fans saying, look, this is a very unique concept of bringing a guy in from ESPN, bringing a guy in that really is more of an NFL guy than he is a college coach. And let's see what this offers up for ASU. If you're going to take a risk, maybe it's somebody that is just such a dynamic speaker and a guy that can close those recruits in homes around the country, that can go in and say, you know, you're my guy and you're going to sign with ASU. I think you have to say to Ray Anderson, man, he's taking a high risk, but is there a high reward? I've made my comments known about it. I would have liked to have seen, you know, I think this is a young man's game. Other than a handful of guys that are really successful, like Nick Saban, who I think is about 66 years old. He's built a machine at Alabama, tremendous success. It's a young man's game. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I think a guy like Derek Mason from Vanderbilt, late 30s, early 40s, played at Camelback High School, has Stanford roots. Yeah, there was a significant buyout there, but that would have been a choice that would be very current. You know, is he the next James Franklin? Franklin did an amazing job in flipping Penn State around. That's a little bit more conventional way to look at trying to flip a football program. And let's keep in mind, this is Ray Anderson's most significant decision since he came on board a little over 4 years ago, because football feeds the revenue for all these other programs. I mean, this is women's softball, this is gymnastics, this is the main revenue builder for an athletic program that must be successful. You got to put fannies in the seats, man. You got to sell season tickets, and I don't know how fans are going to rally behind this. I've heard mixed opinions from very significant longtime boosters that say I can't get all excited about this, and then other boosters have said, yeah, this is a really interesting, risky move, but let's get behind it and let's see how this plays out. So those are the types of things that come into play when you make such a risky decision. I don't think there's any question about it. This is very unconventional.
Yes, and time will definitely tell there, Jude. Well, we are going to carry the full press conference right here on News Now, expecting in about the next 15 minutes. So thank you so much, Jude, for your continued insight, and we'll chat later.
Yeah, we'll see what plays out. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting press conferences because there's some interesting questions. As I give you a final thought here, you've got to look at Ray Anderson saying, okay, Herm Edwards was once your client. You were his agent. Now that you're athletic director, let's address that. Give us the idea behind this new management concept when it comes to taking a page from the NFL. Give us an idea of how you see this working when you fired a guy that by, many people, many Sun Devil fans say, look, 46-31, 7-5, trending in the right direction, and Todd Graham explained that as well. So I think, a lot of explaining to do, so to speak, as we look at this press conference just moments away. So stay with us for that, and we'll have coverage of what is becoming now a new era for ASU football, the Herm Edwards era, about to begin in just a few minutes. So keep it right here.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Jude. All right, and of course, we are awaiting about 15 minutes here from that press conference. We'll have it for you live right here on News Now. Coming up, the top headlines of the day. You're watching News Now. And welcome back here to News Now, taking a live look at the U.S. Capitol. And boy, was it a busy day Friday night into Saturday morning for senators as they continue to debate the tax cut bill. But ultimately, it did pass in the Senate, 51 to 49 votes there. All Democrats voting no on that amendment there, but it did pass the Senate. So now they are going to be going to the House and Senate bills to try to formulate a one concise bill. But hard to believe there, it went into the wee hours there of that Saturday morning, and the stocks right now surging because of the news there of the tax cut one step closer to becoming law and going on President Trump's desk. Here is the very latest with the tax cuts.
Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as amended, is passed.
Bill is passed.
There are more than a few differences in the House and Senate tax reform bills. Both include a corporate tax cut, which the GOP and President Trump say will lead to more jobs and higher wages for the middle class. But some companies like Pfizer and Coca-Cola plan to turn those tax savings over to shareholders. Senator John Barrasso says the goal is to make American companies more desirable to investors.
We have a global economy. Money will come rushing into the United States to invest here. I expect to see incredible amounts of investment from around the world.
Both bills bring the corporate tax rate down to 20% from the current 35%. However, President Trump has suggested settling at 22%, a concession that could sway the minds of opponents in the House. Both versions have personal tax cuts, although they're only temporary. In the Senate bill, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell doesn't see lawmakers letting the cuts expire.
That'll depend on what the Congress decides to do 6 years from now. Many of these tax relief measures, in my judgment, if there's still Republican government, will be extended.
The Senate bill gets rid of the Obamacare individual mandate, while the House version doesn't touch the insurance requirement. House Speaker Paul Ryan has suggested he's open to repealing it, a switch that will likely anger Democrats. In New York, Kelly Wright, Fox News.
All right, we'll see where the timeline stays on this. We heard that it could be on the president's desk in the next 10 days. So we'll see if that could happen. We know that President Trump wanted this all completed before Christmas, so that is still in the timeline. Well, another problem for President Trump lies on North Korea and the continued tensions with that country. Here's the very latest on those North Korea tensions.
More than 12,000 U.S. service members kicking off a series of live-fire military exercises in South Korea, highlighted by coordinated drills involving more than 230 aircraft, including stealth fighter jets and bombers. The drills immediately condemned by the North, but South Korea's military says they'll continue as long as the South feels threatened.
These military drills are held on a regular basis to enhance and strengthen joint military strategic performance.
The drills come 1 week after the North's last missile test, after they fired a missile capable of hitting virtually any point in the continental U.S. The Trump administration now warning the threat of war is increasing.
The greatest immediate threat to the United States and to the world is the threat posed by the rogue regime in North Korea. It's immensely important that we work together with all of our allies.
But a key ally, China, is calling on the U.S. to stop military drills with the South, saying they won't bring the North back to the bargaining table.
China has always been opposed to actions that intensify the situation and has been persistently working on peace talks.
The White House says the president's hardline approach will continue despite China's objections. And supporters say it's already having an impact.
That's really one of the president's core beliefs. Tough talk was something he did from day one. It's not something that's going to change.
The exercise that started today, called Vigilant Ace, is scheduled to last for the next 5 days. In London, Benjamin Hall, Fox News.
All right, and just a reminder for President Trump conference there in Utah. We'll have that for you in about 45 minutes right here on News Now. He's going to be in Utah talking about national monuments in that state is going to be shrinking in the next couple of years. We'll have that for you in full right here on News Now. Well, another situation for President Trump, as we all know, it's Russia, Russia, Russia. It's kind of like Marsha Brady there, Marsha. But the very latest here with the Russia collusion continues. Here is the latest report.
Well, choose your topic, and the president tweeted about it this weekend. But it's the tweets involving the ongoing Russia investigation that are getting the most attention and could have some big implications. The White House may look festive for the season, but inside, President Trump and his Twitter account may make even more waves this morning. Over the weekend, the president traveled back and forth to New York, but there was also a flurry of tweets in the aftermath of last week's indictment and guilty plea from former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn for lying to the FBI. Among them, "I never asked FBI Director James Comey to stop investigating Flynn, just more fake news covering another Comey lie." But Democrats think special counsel Robert Mueller is building a case that Trump may have interfered with an FBI investigation.
I think what we're beginning to see is the putting together of a case of obstruction of justice. And I see it most importantly in what happened with the firing of Director Comey.
No collusion. No collusion.
Now, Trump has long maintained that there was no collusion between his campaign and Russia during last year's election. And so far, there is no evidence that we know of that proves otherwise. But even some of the president's fellow Republicans are uneasy with some of the tweets.
I would just say this to the president. There's an ongoing criminal investigation. Comey may be part of it. You tweet and comment regarding ongoing criminal investigations at your own peril. I'd be careful if I were you, Mr. President. I'd watch this.
The president also tweeted specifically about the FBI, saying that the department's reputation is in tatters. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen President Trump's tweets from Sunday, he really started early. And I mean, there was about 6 or 7 tweets there, ranging everything from Russia to the FBI. So if you haven't already seen those tweets, you might want to take a look back there. President Trump's tweets on Sunday. All right, we have one more story here for you before we take a little break. The latest in business news as stocks continue to surge this morning and afternoon.
Good morning. A wild trading day on Friday after a false report about the president and Michael Flynn sink the markets for a short time. Despite a rebound, all 3 major indexes closed in the red. CVS, the nation's biggest pharmacy chain, agreed to buy Aetna, the #3 insurance company, for $69 billion. In addition to the huge revenue, the combined company could increase in-store healthcare options, drive lower prices from pharmaceutical companies, and force other drug chains to look for merger partners. The deal will likely come under scrutiny from either the DOJ or the Federal Trade Commission. All of this as Amazon has been moving to get state pharmacy licenses, a sign it may be entering the retail pharmacy business. And there will be no shortage of American Airlines pilots this holiday season. More than 15,000 flights from December 17th through the 31st needed coverage. But American Airlines and its pilots union reached a deal that should allow American to operate normally during December, despite an earlier scheduling system glitch that allowed too many pilots to request time off. The two were at odds because American offered pilots 150% of their hourly rate to pick up these unassigned shifts. The union said that violated the pilots' contracts. That's business. For more, log on to foxbusiness.com. In New York, I'm Tracy Carrasco.
And there he is, the new head coach for Arizona State football, Herm Edwards. He's going to be introduced in just a couple of moments. We'll have his live press conference coming up next.
Now, I must tell you, I'm really happy to see everyone here, and I will share with you that since the last time we met in a similar setting a week ago, it has been a long, it's been a hectic, it's been a interesting, and I can guarantee you it's been an educational week for all of us here at ASU. So, but what we're here today is to address 2 really important questions. And that is the why about Herm Edwards. Why is Herm Edwards being named our 24th head coach? And then the second question we're going to address is how? How is Herm Edwards being our head coach going to elevate this program to the place we want to be, and that is at an elite level? And so that's our task here today. So with regard to the why and some how perspective, I'd like to bring in Dr. Michael Crow to give you some insight from his perspective. Dr. Crow.
Hey, Ray. Hey, Ray, thank you for the introduction. Sorry that I had some meetings in Washington that I was unable to change, but I'm sitting in the ASU Washington office. And I wanted to basically outline where we are with athletics and where we are with our football program. The main objective that Ray has is fourfold. First, he is to advance He is to advance university athletics to produce graduates. He's to advance university athletics to produce championship competing teams. He's to advance university athletics to build affinity with Arizona State University. And finally, he's to advance university athletics to be self-supporting from a financial perspective. So those four.
And welcome back here to News Now. The ASU President Michael Crow introducing the new ASU football coach, Herm Edwards. Let's listen in.
Has taken on this task in his in his 3 years that he's been here with us at the university by finding tremendous core staff in the athletic department, by finding tremendous coaches that help us to advance against those four objectives simultaneously, as well as a deep willingness on his part to bring in new thinking on how we might structure our athletic programs. And so one of the things that we're trying to do in our football structure here is to build on the success and the achievements that we've had over the last several years, to build on the growing capability of our football program, but to advance in a new model, a model that is one in which we find an individual who can manage our football program and be our head coach, who can draw from our coaching staff our capable coaching staff that we have in place, who can then also draw from the expertise and the talent and the energy and the insight and the perspective within our athletic department itself. And so Ray will talk a little bit about this model going forward, but what we're doing here is we're changing into a differentiated model. We're not happy with the way this model is working at other schools. We're not happy with the way the model has worked over many coach changes here in our case at ASU. And so we're very excited about this opportunity to move forward with a new model. And in advancing this new model, we needed to find a unique individual. In the time I've been able to speak with Herm Edwards, I have found him to be an outstanding individual, an outstanding leader, a person capable of leading our program and also advancing us in this new model. And so I'm excited about where we are. I'm excited about Ray's leadership. I'm excited about the coaching hires that Ray has been making to advance ASU athletics, Sun Devil sports. And so we're committed to driving forward to higher and higher levels of excellence. One of the things that we find that's interesting as we hear people comment on different things that we're doing is there's this constant expectation or concern that somehow we're not able to move forward to higher levels of performance, or expecting elite outcomes among our sports teams is something that is beyond us or isn't possible for an institution like ASU. And what I have to say is pay close attention to all of our sports, pay close attention to where we're moving, pay close attention to all the things that we're striving to do. We believe that our competitiveness is absolutely and essentially critical to the long-term success of our university. And we need structures and designs and models, not just trying the same old thing, not just advancing with the same old way that people advance things at other institutions, to find new ways for ASU to be successful. So I'm very excited about this coaching selection, very excited about where we're headed with ASU athletics, and thank Ray for his time and talent and energy and just a total drive to achieve the four goals that we've outlined for him. So thank you, Ray. The headphone.
Thank you, Dr. Crow.
Thanks.
I want to give you another perspective on the why, because some people will say that this is a very unusual move for anyone to make. Someone in Herm Edwards' situation, they will say this is a very weird move, in fact, for someone to make. But let's get some more perspective on that. I'd like to introduce Phil DiPicciotto. Phil is the founder and president of the Octagon Agency. Phil is one of the most recognized and experienced and respected agents in the world, representing high-profile athletes and executives in all sports, and Phil is here to share with you the thoughts from his lofty position as Herman's representative for more than 10 years, why, from his perspective, does Herm Edwards in this place make the most sense right now. Phil DiPicciotto.
Good morning, everyone. So I've been asked by Ray to share with you why Herm Edwards has chosen to accept ASU's offer to become its next football head coach. And to understand that, we have to start by understanding a little bit about Herm the person. At his core, Herm is an educator, and to him, education is about caring and communication. Herm's passion is and has always been helping young people develop their potential. He is terrific at that. It just comes to him naturally. Sometimes he teaches on a football field, sometimes he teaches in an office, and sometimes through a television screen. But whatever the platform, Herm has the same keen insights about people and an outstanding ability to connect easily with everyone. Because Herm is a unifier. He is a team builder. He is a person of extreme decency and complete integrity. He has chosen to make his difference in the world by trying to enhance every other person's life, not by focusing on himself. In fact, he looks out for everyone except himself, always. How one wins and with whom is really important to him. That brings us to ASU. Herm found all of these elements in special alignment here at ASU. He saw Dr. Crow's commitment to the local community, membership in the global community, and dedication to doing things well and differently and boldly, yet modestly. And he saw his esteemed and highly trusted attorney and advisor from long ago, Ray Anderson, applying Dr. Crow's overall vision to the athletics department through the introduction of ice hockey program, the reintroduction of the men's tennis program, the hiring of Bob Bowman to elevate the swimming and diving program, and so much more. He sees the dots as all being connected, with everyone pulling in the same direction. And anyone who has worked in an organization or played on a team knows that one wins through common purpose and shared chemistry and values just as much as one wins with talent. That's what Herm sees here. It's the people who are the real keys to his desire to work here. It's always about the people for Herm. There is no situation other than this one at ASU that would have caused Herm to move from ESPN. He is beloved there, not only for his on-air expertise, but also for his everyday, behind-the-scenes contributions. He is referred to there as coach because he is always trying to help everyone. His personal qualities are as timeless as they are modern, so they are entirely consistent with the combination of deep tradition and unending innovation here at ASU. That's why Herm ended up here today, when he never intended to leave ESPN. He feels he can help advance Dr. Crow's mission because he fully subscribes to that mission. He feels he can help students here, and especially those student athletes who play football. He feels he can make the right kind of difference because everyone else here is committed to making that same kind of difference. I would say simply that Herm Edwards just fits here. And I have no doubt that he will put a lot of points on the scoreboard of life for everyone in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And let me turn to myself in terms of the why. And so, competitive consistency is required to elevate this football program to the place we want to be. So let me reiterate some of the things I shared with you 8 days ago. Competitive consistency in our academics are really solid, in large part due to the efforts of Coach Todd Graham. And competitive consistency in terms of citizenship and role modeling and discipline and behavior and conduct is at a very high level here, in large part through the work of Coach Todd Graham. But competitive consistency in the performance and outcome on game day, frankly, have not met our expectations. And after me evaluating for 4 years the body of work I have to be honest on behalf of this program and on behalf of this university to make the assessment and then make the hard decision that I truly believe in the best interest of this university and this football program going forward. But I want you to know that ASU football is nobody's rebuild. This is not a startup. This is not a start over. We need to take the next step in competitive consistency, and I believe Herm Edwards can take us there. And so what is competitive consistency that we're looking for as we go forward? In recruiting really great student athletes, 4- and 5-star student athletes from all over the place where talent is. We haven't done that well. Developing players and then coaching players to their highest potential so that those players who in fact have aspirations to go to the NFL are in fact being readied and prepared here to do that. We haven't done that well. Competitive consistency in developing and retaining assistant coaches so we can have that continuity and that stability and that recruiting quality and consistency that we need here. And then certainly competitive consistency where in game preparation and game day performance, we are competitively and consistently the team that nobody wants to play. And that's what I think we will get in Herm Edwards. And so Dr. Crow and myself, we have high visions for this university, and I certainly came in here to try to advance forward his high vision for this athletic department, and I'm bound and determined to do that. We're going to change our model because, as Dr. Crow alluded, the traditional model in athletics under which we have operated for these years has produced, very frankly, unsatisfying and for the most part mediocre results. And so what we are going to do is we are going to pivot more to a model like you would see in the NFL and frankly other professional sports. And what that means is that the football head coach is going to get a lot of support from other folks outside of the traditional model. And so much more of the participation of Gene Boyd and Scotty Graham and Marcus Walker, Donnie Yantis, Tim Cassidy, Kevin Minifield, Scotty Graham, Gabe Cagwin, Frank Ferraro, Russ Giglio, and others, Don Bakke, and others who I am missing, Ken Lanfear, and forgive me for that, colleagues. It is going to be an all-in, all hands on board. Andrea Lohr, Courtney Skipper. It is going to be an all hands on deck effort to upgrade football the way we have upgraded in some of our other sports. And so it will be a collaboration. We do not have a structure where the head coach will need to, neither will he be expected to, control it all and do it all. We want to recruit, we want to coach, we want to develop, and we want to elevate. And that's what we're going to get with Herm Edwards. And so what I would tell you is that elevated performance is not new to us at ASU. The standards and expectations are already here in our sports programs. Just this week, if we were noticing, Bobby Hurley in basketball, great performance. Bob Bowman leading our men's and women's swimming teams, great performance. Zeke Jones leading our wrestling team this weekend in Las Vegas, great performance. And let's just go back a little ways. Last year, Missy Farr-Kay, national championship in golf, brand new head coach. Look what Matt Thurman is doing in men's golf, new to our environment. Cliff English just won the second triathlon national championship for our women's team. Excellent, to be sure, right? And then what we will tell you is that Coach Powers in ice hockey, by the way, is doing a great job. And then you go back a little bit to our tenured coaches who have competitively and consistently performed at high levels. How about Sheila McInerney in tennis? How about Charlie Turner-Thorne in women's basketball? How about Todd Clapper in women's water polo? It is happening here now. And there's no way anybody can tell me with anything that's going to make me listen that we can't do it in football. In fact, we're going to do it in football. So what I would say to you is this train in football is leaving the station. And for any doubters that for whatever reason can't commit to get on right now, that's okay. We understand. We're not going to take it personally. But as that train continues its path uphill, if for whatever reason at any time you decide you now want to get on board, then jump on board, because we got a seat for you. We got a seat for you. So I am proud to represent ASU Athletics in announcing Herm Edwards as our new head football coach and indeed the conductor of this train. Herm Edwards.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here, obviously, to take on this task of being the head football coach. I'd like to thank Dr. Crow, obviously, Ray, all those in the audience. I also like to thank the players that are here, the former athletes. And you look at their faces, you know who they are, the Mike Hayneses, Rod Woodsons. You see them all. These are the guys that are part of ASU Athletics. Not only are they great players, they're great men. And I think when you're a football coach, the thing you realize right away is that it's about winning football games. That is a fact. But it's really using football to build men. So when they leave this university, and they've done a nice job, these guys are equipped to deal with what's out there in the real world, with all the issues that we have in this world. If they're not pro football players, they'll be good fathers, they'll be good men, they'll be good husbands, they'll be good citizens. These men that stand before you to my left are those men. They represented this university. I understand the importance of what this university stands for. It's not the players or the athletes that play in the jerseys. It's not their names on the back. It's the name on the front of the jersey in the history of this place. When you think of all the donors that have contributed to these young people, contributed so they could have success here, the buildings that are going up, the facilities, that's their passion for this university. I have that same passion because of the vision that has been created by Dr. Crow and Ray. I'm willing to meet that vision. When Ray talks about competitive consistency, I understand exactly what he's talking about. Athletes from all over the country, whether it's here locally, should be coming back here. Guys in California and Los Angeles should be coming here. Why is this not the destination? Why can't it be? That's my job. That's my job, to go into those homes and tell those parents, this is the place you want to send your son. Because when he leaves here, he will be like one of these men over here. He'll be fully ready to deal with anything that comes across his way. He will become a student athlete. You have a great, great base here of players. You have a great community of people that support this university. I want to be a part. I'm on the train, by the way. I'm on the train. And I'm going to ride it. I will ride this train until it stops. It's not going to stop. We're going. We're going with you. And if you want to board on a little bit later, we got a seat. Just like Ray said, we got a seat for you. Might not be comfortable, but you'll have a seat. This is about this university. It will never be about me. This university is bigger than any coach. It's bigger than any president. It's bigger than any AD. It's about the young people that leave here. That's what this university is all about. It's about what they will contribute in our society. We'll make them the best players they can be as athletes. I can guarantee you that. The one thing I've learned a long time ago, coaches, they don't give players talent. God does. It's up to us to make sure that they exhaust their talent here. They exhaust it. Because when you don't, you're cheating yourself. And we're not going to allow that to happen. We're going to build an environment here where we can nurture people, where we can understand that these players have questions. They want to know why. I grew up in a football world in the era that I played college football, where if you asked the coach why, you were threatening authority. That's not the world we live in anymore. These young people want to know why. They want answers. Why is knowledge? It's up to us to give them knowledge. It's not questioning authority. They want to know. I understand that. I've had the privilege. Some people will question, well, you haven't coached in a long time. You haven't been on the field. Turn the TV on Wednesday. I'll be back in studio in Bristol. And I'll be coaching football, by the way. That's what I do. I coach football. And I've been coaching football my whole life. And this is why I'm here today, because of the vision. There's something that a great former player said here. Pat Tillman. He said, when he talked about passion, he said it ignites your soul. Football ignites my soul. It's what makes me go. This is what I do. I've done this my whole life. And some people will say, well, you know, you haven't coached in 9 years. There's a man that I played for, and you'll know who he is. His name is Dick Vermeil. When that man walked out of Philadelphia's locker room, when he was burnt out, the first person he saw in that locker room was me, because I played for him. He was like my second father. 13 years later, after he retired from being on television, ended up being a pretty good coach, didn't he? He didn't forget how to coach. You don't forget how to coach. They're not bringing me here to play. I can't play, although I'll tell you, I got one hit left. But I can't play. But I got one left. I'm not here to play. I'm here to build a program on top of the foundation that's already been built here. That's what we're here to do. We're here to be relevant in the Pacific 12. We want to be relevant. We want to be one of those teams that people say, hey, you go to Arizona State, you play in that stadium, be careful. I don't want to hear about SC or Stanford or Oregon or UCLA. I heard about that my whole life growing up. Frank Cush recruited me to come here as a high school athlete. I know the tradition of this place. I did not come here. I went to Cal. I was in the Pac-8 before they called this thing the Pac-12. Think I don't have history here? I got rich history here. I have rich history on the West Coast of playing football. I understand the importance of this game and what it does for us all. And before I open up for questions, I'll tell you this about football. The thing you miss most, and these players will say it, when you don't play or you don't coach, it's the huddle. You miss the huddle. You miss the ability to walk in the room where collectively we're players that are from everywhere, every race, every religion, every color. It don't matter. Because you got a common goal. You got a common goal. You're trying to be something special as a team. We don't huddle anymore in our society. We don't huddle. That's the problem with it. Be quite honest. When you become a part of a team, and you become a part of a football team, and when you look to the left and you look to the right, there's this bond that says, I'm not letting that guy down. Not today. Not ever. These guys know what I'm talking about. We were all fortunate enough to be in a different huddle when we left college. The National Football League. Those men right there, we're all united. They get it. That's what football does to you. And when you've played football, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. The competition, walking in the huddle, and looking at your teammates and say, I got your back. I'll fight for you. That's what football is all about. I'm proud to be the head coach here. And I promise you, whatever I have, and I got a whole lot, I will work tirelessly, and I'll be committed to the vision of Dr. Crow and Ray Anderson. Thank you. I'll open up for questions. When I saw this jersey, now this is where, you former players now. Look at this. This is a real player's jersey. I thought this was my daughter's jersey. Like, remember we used to play a big old pad and a big helmet? I'll tell you what, man, we can come back. Yeah, we can come back.
All right, there you see it, a very animated Herm Edwards as he is returning to the coaching world, the new ASU head football coach. And you see he's getting his official jersey right there and making fun of the size right there. We'll be back here on the News Now with some questions from the media.
Hi, Herm. Doug Haller, Arizona Republic.
Yes, sir.
Good. You mentioned that you'll be in Bristol on Wednesday. How much longer will your ESPN duties last?
Friday. And then I'm out recruiting. We got some young people coming in here this weekend. And I can't wait to hug them and grab their neck and tell them why it's important for them to come to this university. But I owe ESPN to go back. There's a lot of people that I've been there 9 years. They've given me the ability to coach from a monitor. They've given me the ability to come in your home and coach. A lot of friends there. This is a very tough decision for me, to be quite honest. I've had chances to come back and coach, trust me. But I'm not a guy that publicizes it. I don't do that. Because I think it's a bad look for the university. Because then the next coach that takes the job, if I would say I'm not interested, they say, well, you got the second guy. I know how that works. I'm a media person too. So I don't do that. I don't put people in embarrassing situations. This was the right place for all what Dr. Crow talked about and Ray talked about. But I owe those people back in Bristol. I want to hug a lot of those folks because it's important for me to do that. When you sign on to do something, you finish. You finish. You don't tap out. You don't say, well, I got something else, I'm going to leave you hanging. No, I'm not. I'm going to commit to what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to finish my work week out, by the way. And then I'll be here Saturday night. And then I'm going on the road next week. And I can't wait to go on the road. I'm probably going to gain 10 pounds probably going on the road, but it's okay. You know, you got it.
And welcome back here to News Now. We are taking a live look at the new ASU head football coach, Herm Edwards, as he is now talking to the media. Let's continue to listen in right here live on News Now.
You're 63 years old. Huh? Who put a number on when you could coach football? Don't tell that to Nick Saban. He's 66. Don't tell that to Roy Williams. Tom Izzo's a good friend. He called me. He said, Coach. He said, thank you for what you do. So, yeah, I'm going back to work. But I'm going back to work, guess what? When they introduce me on Wednesday morning. Arizona State's head coach. That's what they're going to say. It's pretty powerful. Next question. Yes, sir.
Hold Rubino, Devil's Digest.
Devil's Digest, huh?
Yes, sir.
Where are you located, my man?
Right here in Tempe.
Okay, Devil's Digest. Okay. I'm Catholic now. I'm a Christian. Watch out, them devils. I'm just saying.
Well,
we're good, brother.
You can see devils all over the place.
I ain't taking it personal.
When do you plan to meet with the assistant coaches and the players, and what aspect of your career you think is going to, or what do you hope is going to resonate the most? Is your career in ESPN, career as a coach, career as a player?
All three. It's knowledge. We all search for knowledge. I think I can contribute knowledge. Know this, I delegate things to people. See, I believe you delegate things to people so they feel like they're part of it. You know, that's important to me, delegating to people. So that they understand that, you know what, I'm going to delegate it to you. I'm a good listener. I don't have all the answers. Trust me, I don't have all the answers. But I'm always in search for knowledge. And I think when you delegate responsibility to coaches, you uplift them. You give them the courage to say, Coach, can we think about this? I'm not one of those coaches that says, hey, we can't change. I think sometimes change is growth, and you have to be willing to do that. So I'm okay with that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hey, Coach, welcome to town.
Thank you.
My name is Phil Latzman. I'm with KJZZ, the NPR station here. We occasionally cover sports. So first question, it's a two-part question. Number one is, you talked about, and Dr. Crow talked about this, and so did Ray Anderson, about the fact that this is maybe more than a football hire. Do you feel that way? And maybe you guys, maybe Dr. Crow can answer the question about why this sort of extends past the athletic department, this hire?
You want Dr. Crow to answer that?
And I'd like you to talk about that if you have any,
Sure. Let Dr. Crow first. He's more important than anybody in this room, by the way. Let him answer that question first.
So I think the only thing that I would add is it's important because it seems to be happening in college football that you can see with the coach changes that are going on this year that there's just this model just keeps going and going and going, where entire crews of coaches are fired, new coaches are brought in from some other school, the ante goes up, the cost goes up. The model just keeps moving back and forth, interchangeable parts, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And somewhere along the line, a model of consistent performance, consistent structure, a team of individuals that are supporting the football program over longer periods of time, that's what we're looking for. And Herman has, I should say Coach Edwards has experience in this model. Ray has experience in this model, and we're looking to see if we can form a college version of that model.
Dr. Crow said it exactly right, and that was our discussion. And I'm going to meet with the assistant coaches later on today, by the way.
Just one other thing for me,
sure.
If you don't mind.
Yep.
Your relationship with Ray, you guys go way back.
Yes, sir.
How much did that influence you coming here? If it wasn't for Ray, would you be here?
Well, there was two parts. It's Ray and Dr. Crow. I mean, this is why you have these discussions. This is why these discussions before, when people would call me, I said, it's not aligned right for me. It's not the right situation. As I said, I had a great job. I can go back tomorrow and continue to work. I'm committed to this. This fuels me right here. This is special. This is a special place. And I think sometimes when you get immersed in your community, you don't really realize the good things that are happening. You know, it's kind of funny because we worry about some of the other things. You say, what is this university really doing? We don't step back and say, look what this university has accomplished already. And it has a lot to do with the vision of where they want to go, and I want to be a part of that. That's important for me. Yes, sir.
Herman, Craig Morgan from Arizona Sports. You said you don't forget how to coach.
Right.
Clearly there is innovation in coaching on offense and defense, in methods.
Yeah.
How have you managed to keep abreast of that innovation given your other duties, and how do you plan to make up maybe for some of the gaps?
Well, I don't have to make up because I visit college campuses all the time. And when you sit where I sit, see, this is what people don't realize. When you sit at ESPN, I'm not just watching professional football. I'm actually watching college football. That is our farm league. When I'm invited to go to Alabama, and when I'm invited to go to Michigan and these places where I've talked to the teams and visited with coaches, and I see the innovation. I sit down there. I'm always constantly learning. So that's not a problem for me. The thing we have to realize now is there's so much innovation and there's so much change is how do players learn? That's the critical part for me. How do we teach players better, especially in college? Because they're student athletes first. They're not professional football players. They're student athletes first. Well, how do we teach them in the time restraints that we have with them? And this is why I think where we are now with the ability to get information quickly. You know, this is the new generation. They process information very quickly. And, you know, they multitask. Their brain multitasks. I know that because I coach Under Armour All-American game every year for the last 8 years. Some pretty good players down there, by the way. And I see that.
And Coach, how many times have you won that?
I don't want to talk about my guy Mooch, but 7-1. He always says I get the best quarterbacks, but actually I was getting another good one this year, but I can't coach it anymore, so that's okay. How about this? I coach it my first year. I go down there and you get 90 of the, 95 5A players, right? And so my first meeting, I'm sitting in there with the players, and I said, okay, Jameis Winston. I said, Jameis Winston? He said, yeah. I said, you know this guy over here? And he says, no, who is that? I said, his name is Amari Cooper. And he goes, you guys stand up. And the offensive coach is sitting there. And I said, Jameis, this is Amari. Amari, that's Jameis. I said, here's the plan. First day. Jameis, you throw it to Amari. Amari, you catch it. Scored 40-something points. Ain't winning that pretty good. That's kind of football, you know. Kind of got a good quarterback, and you got a good player, give him the ball. Doesn't change.
Herm, can you give us an idea of when you first started exploring this idea, and at the time were you on board, or did Ray really have to kind of sell his vision and Michael Crow's vision and maybe why he thought that you would be a good fit?
No doubt. And, you know, look, I've known Ray over 20 years. And we're friends. I mean, first of all, we're life friends. And when this situation kind of arose, I said, well, I'd like to listen because it's you. And I understand you. And I said, you know, obviously, Dr. Crow has to be a part of this as well. And as the more we discussed it and the more we talked about it, I said, this is a great model. This is making a difference. You know, our legacy in our life is this. Do we understand that we all have this ability, regardless of what we do? We sit here as media people. There has been media people sitting covering football way before you folks walked in this room. Did they make a difference with tomorrow in mind for you? Will you do that? That's kind of our life quest. Will you make a difference for the next generation? And sometimes we don't think about that. We think about our own self rather than those that will follow us. That's your legacy. That's your mark. I was taught that by my father. The most powerful possession you own, the most powerful possession you own as a person is your last name. It can't be bought. And how you live your life will tell your story. It'll tell your story. Happens every time. It's the most powerful possession you give your children, your last name. When they receive it, you want them to receive it in good standings. That's your legacy. And you put it on your children to make sure they carry that name. That's important to me. Football has been my life. It's taken me and given me opportunities I could never imagine. I'm honored. I am honored to be an ambassador for the great game of football. That's my life's work. It's always been my life's work. I understand it. Hopefully I answer your question.
Herman, Chris Cartman, 24/7 Sports and SunNovaSource.com.
Boy, that's a long title, man. Wow. You can have 3 jobs with that title, partner.
I feel like I do sometimes. Can you just speak to how much thought you've put into what needs to happen organizationally and the conversations with Ray and Dr. Crow about those things, and what are the key things that get accomplished as soon as you possibly can in those regards?
Well, the key things, I think, for me to meet with the staff, first of all, because our lifeblood is athletes. And the next thing I want to know is when I meet with the staff and the recruiting department we have here and all the things that we go through to evaluate players is, and I've told Dr. Crow this and Ray this, hey, what is our DNA? Hey, I don't know that. I got a perception of what I think should be the DNA of a player that plays for Arizona State. If I ask you this question, Stanford, a Stanford athlete that plays football, I know what their DNA is. It ain't hard to figure out. You just know. You say, they're going to get these kind of guys, they're going to graduate, some of them will play pro football, but they're always going to have good teams. I don't know. I know Coach Shaw over there. Like I said, I watch a lot of football. But I look at their DNA and I go, okay, what's our DNA? Who are the athletes we're going to go recruit? We need to know that. We need to know that as a coaching staff. We need to know that as a scouting department. So when we look at players, we understand these are the type of athletes we want. We got to determine that. I don't know what that is now. I haven't met with those folks, but I'm going to meet with them. And I might have a couple suggestions. Just to say. We'll see.
Yes, Jeff Metcalf, Arizona Republic. Could you just talk more about how, right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could you talk more about how you think this new model is going to work with you working with the people in administration that are going to be sort of in this new role, how that's going to work from a coaching standpoint? And then also, some coaches would not want to come into a place where they may, there may be assistant coaches that are already retained. Can you talk about that also?
Yeah, I'll answer the last question first. First of all, that question was posed to me before. It said, what about coaches that have already been retained? And they're people want to phrase it this way. They're his coaches. No, they're not. They're football coaches. If they're good football coaches, they're good football coaches. But you say, well, no, I don't want you because you're a football coach. When I turn the tape on and watch your player play, what are you doing to help this guy? That's what I want to know. Can you make this guy a better football player? You can't give him talent. But fundamentally and mentally, is he a better football player because he played under your watch? That's all I want to know. Can you develop the players that we have here? That's all I care about. That is my main goal. As far as administration goes, with Dr. Crow and Ray, there's constant communication. Like Ray said, this is like a little bit of an NFL model. When you're the head coach, you're always talking ownership. You're always talking to the GM. It's constant. It is constant. There is a link between those three. And if you really historically go back to the National Football League, for instance, if you look at some of the successful organizations that are in the championship games, now they might have a dip or two, but we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. You talk about the New England Patriots. Now, obviously, Bill Belichick's there with a great owner. Yeah. You got Captain America, too. That helps. It's Tom Brady. That's what I call him. You watch certain organizations, and they continue to have this success. It's consistent. Now, there's times when they might not make the playoffs, but it never drops where it's like, what just happened? That's the model we're looking for. That's the model we're trying to build here in football. They've done it on other levels of sports here. Why can't we do it in football? That's our mission. That's why I'm here. That's my task. I get it. I love it.
Herman, Craig Morgan again from Arizona Sports back here.
Yes, sir.
Paint a picture for us of you walking into a recruit's living room. How does that scene unfold?
Well, it's obviously looking at their family members and asking them this question. What do you expect out of your son? But more than that, this is what I'm going to do for your son. when he leaves my watch, hopefully he'll be a graduate from here, because I'm going to press him to do that. And whatever talent he has, I'll exhaust it. And if he's good enough athlete to go to the next level, he'll be prepared, mentally and physically. If not, he will leave here at this university with a degree, and hopefully he'll say this. And I've had a lot of players tell me this. I'm a better man for playing under that guy. I'm a better man. That's my mission. We'll see if it works. I think it will, by the way.
Herm, Doug Haller again, Arizona Republic. There are a million complex rules when it comes to recruiting.
Woo, yeah.
How do you plan to get up to speed on those?
Well, it's real easy. You ask questions. You don't do anything. I know I can't mention an athlete's name. I know that. So when I get to work Wednesday, hush is the word. I will do nothing to embarrass this university when it comes to rules. I'm a kind of rule guy. When you grow up in a military family where your dad is a master sergeant, you get the rules. You understand rules and regulations. You get that part. Sometimes you don't agree, but they're there for a reason. And I'm not going to edge the rules or fudge the rules. I am not going to embarrass my father's last name or this university. I can promise you that. We will do it the right way. No exceptions. We're going to do it the right way. That's how it should be done. Because when you start doing things the wrong way, and you're showing 18 and 19-year-old young men that, you know what, you can move the line. Really? Yeah. You keep moving the line, and all of a sudden, when they leave this university, they think that's what life's about. It's not about structure. It's about my talent will allow me to move the line. No. If you want to build them right, there's always rules in life, and we don't always have to agree with them, but they're there for a reason. They're there for structure.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my friend.
Ray last night in the statement referred to you as a CEO coach, which kind of infers that it may be different than the traditional head coaching role. Could you kind of maybe go into that a little bit, maybe some examples of how your role will be different, what you're doing, what you're not doing, compared to the way it's always been done?
Well, I think a lot of coaches, when they get these jobs, they become dominated in the fact that I've got to do everything. I think this is where you got to learn how to delegate. That's what good CEOs do. They hire people with talent, and they allow them for success. Look, when you're a leader, your number one goal is this. You serve them. They don't serve you. You serve the people you hire. This is why you go out and hire good people. And then you give them the vehicle so they can be successful. Now, they'll be held accountable. They will be held accountable. I will be in every room as a coach. Now, do I fall on the defensive side of it? Yeah, I fall on the defensive side of it, but I'll be in every room. When I became a head coach, it's kind of ironic because some people say, well, you're the head coach, you're on the defensive side. I never went in the defensive room. I sat with the offense. You know where I learned that from? Tony Dungy. We came out of college the same time together, played in the All-Star games. I was one of the coaches on that staff when we built that Tampa Bay thing. And the first thing Tony told me was this. The defensive players will assume that I'm going in their room. You're in their room. You're the assistant head coach. I'm going in the offensive room. I will delegate responsibilities to coordinators and to assistant coaches. And then I will hold them accountable for how those players play. And anytime I see something going awry, I will make mention of that. That's what you do. You don't just coach the players. You got to coach the coaches.
And welcome back here to News and Now, taking a look here just moments ago of President Trump landing in Utah to announce some big cuts to national monuments there in that state. You could also see Senator Orrin Hatch with them as well. President Trump just arrived at the Utah Air National Guard base attached to Salt Lake City International Airport. He will then appear at the Capitol to sign an executive order reportedly removing some 2 million acres from the national monuments created by his Democratic predecessors in southern Utah. Senator Orrin Hatch and the Interior Secretary Ryan Zieke, who's now traveling with the president from Washington, expected to speak as well. We'll have that for you right here on News Now. Whenever we do get that for you, you can take a look here right at the Capitol. This is a live look right now of where President Trump will be giving his speech. We'll have that for you right here when that does become available. But we do appreciate you guys joining us here on News Now as we do wait for the president to hit the podium there in Utah to talk about the monuments that will be shrinking in size there. Hi, everybody. Mike Pace here as we continue on with News Now, taking feeds really from all over the country. And when breaking news does occur, you know we have you covered right here on News Now as well. We are going to show you, though, this is a big success story in the medical field. The first baby from a uterus transplant was born in the U.S. just a couple of days ago in Dallas. And now the doctors are talking about that huge success story there. Let's listen into a little bit of that right here on News Now.
I think any of us transplant surgeons can speak to this, but you know, as transplant surgeons, we generally take care of people with end-stage organ disease, and you know, when we do the transplantation, there's generally sort of we see the organ working, you know, immediately. So the sort of life-saving, life-giving aspect of it is seen immediately. And with the uterus transplantation, it was much more of a process, you know, transplanting, having the donor and then transplanting the uterus and then waiting to see if the uterus became functional, and then waiting to see if we would have implantation of the embryo and that the patient would become pregnant, and then, you know, ensuring, you know, all of our OB-GYN colleagues ensuring that the woman stayed healthy and the baby stayed healthy during the pregnancy. So there's a lot less of sort of an immediate gratification that we normally get with our transplants, and so this has been a long run for us compared to what we normally do, but definitely worth it. I mean, all of us would agree with that.
A kidney transplant, you know whether it's working in seconds, and this ultimately it's a year plus before we found out. So there's a big difference between seconds and years. So.
Well, this is the beginning of a long journey, not only for women in general. We want to make sure that people understand this is not the solution. It's one of the solutions. If a woman has absolute uterine infertility, this is one of the solutions out there, like adoption is or surrogacy in some states. But then there are scientific implications that have to do with immunosuppression, have to do with maternity itself, have to do with the status of other organs throughout this process. So it's opening a lot of new light, and it's so early. It's fascinating to be at this point at the present time.
Hi.
Yes.
So many are curious about mom and baby. Were there any complications during pregnancy, and did she carry the full 40 weeks? Was this a full-term baby?
Bob, that's yours.
Well, the patient has asked us not to say exactly how far along she was, but she carried to the pregnancy as long as most of the ones in Sweden had done. So we're in the ballpark, and they've both done fine. The mom has already gone home. The baby is on room air and eating, and the mom is anxiously awaiting him to come home. So they did. Well, it was sort of what we expected. Immunosuppressive drugs have some effect on the mom. As far as we've been able to tell over 30 years, it's never affected the baby any. And they both did great.
I don't think is there such a thing as an easy pregnancy?
I was going to say, you're going to have to ask the Bob that question.
Yeah. We are the last one, the male part of this are the last one who can answer that question. I can tell you that it was not easy for us.
These are very stressful. I mean, starting with the first liver transplant that we did here 30 years ago. I mean, we were flying by the seat of our pants, had no idea what we were really doing, what the medicine was going to do. And so it's, Kristen, thank goodness, babysat us and the patient 24 hours a day. So, I mean, she deserves tremendous
she does.
respect for this, because she has shepherded us all through this and kept up with the mom. Every sniffle she had, every time she fell, I mean, we were just panicked that something was going to happen to the pregnancy. And so it was difficult just because of the intensity of this.
How many other women can you tell us are involved in this clinical trial, and are any of them pregnant right now?
So we have permission to do 10 transplants, and we've done 8 so far. We can reveal today that one more is in an advanced stage of pregnancy, and the other ones are in different stages of the procedure. And we have promised to reveal that not where they are at the moment, but they are in different stages.
Are you talking about the language barrier? This is what I said before. I truly believe, and is the fact that this is really what medicine should be today. This is academia in its best expression, because what happened is that we start sharing information right away. Of course, we gain tons by having Lisa here, and in the moments where we really didn't know what was going to happen, Lisa was the voice that, no, I've seen this. We can go forward. Everything is fine. We are in constant communication with a few other groups in the world and in the United States who are looking into this procedure. Some of us are a little more advanced just because we started earlier. But this is beautiful. The communication is constant. We learn from each other. Things that happen in Sweden didn't happen with us and vice versa. So now we are kind of comparing notes. And I'm very excited about what will come in the future, because the reality is that this procedure will become easier on the woman, on the recipients and donors, and easier for everybody. Christine, why do you want to address this?
So we had a lot of donors step forward and are continuing to step forward, and we're extremely thankful for them. We were very surprised. I think we were expecting to have people related to the recipients, and we had so many more women that were selflessly willing to go through the screening, which is the best physical they ever got, and be willing to at least look into this. It's not right for everybody because it is a major surgery, but we were definitely overwhelmed by the initial interest and are continuing to be overwhelmed. And it's great, and we can't wait to talk to everybody. It will take a little bit of time because there's a lot of interest. So I promise I'll get back to everybody, but there's a lot, and we're very thankful for that. So we hope to be able to help a lot of women.
Welcome everyone here on Fox10Phoenix.com, taking a live look at the state capitol there in Utah as we are awaiting President Trump to make his national monuments speech there in Salt Lake City. You are watching live right here on News Now. And welcome back here to News Now. You're taking a live look at Salt Lake City, where we are expecting any moment now President Trump to make his national monuments speech there, as he is reportedly going to be talking about shrinking the size of some of those national monuments in southern Utah. And of course, when President Trump hits the podium, of course, we will bring that to you right here on News Now. Hi, everybody. Mike Page as we continue on with News Now, taking feeds from all over the country on this very busy Monday. Now, one of the top stories happening right now is that we are just 8 days away from the special election in Alabama for U.S. Senator, and happening right now is a press conference from the Democratic candidate. Doug Jones is speaking, and let's listen in as he talks about his challenger, Senator Roy Moore.
This is always humbling for me to come back to my roots, to come through Fairfield, to drive in areas that I don't get to very often, to see this backdrop of United States Steel, and particularly the tin mill, because, you know, my dad started out at the tin mill. He moved up. He stayed at this facility for about 60 years in one capacity or another. My granddad, my maternal grandfather, who I knew as Pawpaw, not only worked at the steel mill as a steel worker, he died on the floor of the tin mill of a heart attack when he was only 62 years old. My other grandfather was a coal miner that supplied the coal that you see that built this plant and made that steel. All of my family have come from those backgrounds, coal mining, steel workers. I know what it's like to be in a working class family. I know what it's like to see the middle class being built up through these manufacturing jobs. I also know what it's like when some of those paychecks get missed and people start worrying about those jobs. They start worrying about whether or not they're one paycheck away from poverty. This plant behind me, folks, used to employ up to 20,000 people. Think about that. If you came out here, you saw a sprawling plant, and it was up to 20,000 people. That plant now has probably right around 1,000 people. And that's what happens to so many of our manufacturing jobs in the state of Alabama. They're the real economic engine of the communities in the state that built that middle class, that made Alabama a thriving economy at one time. And we're struggling a little on those jobs now. I've been really happy to have met with not only steel companies like U.S. Steel and Nucor and others, but the steel workers and manufacturing. I want to make sure that people understand that there's a way that we can promote things to bring jobs here, to let folks expand jobs here. There's a Buy America program that I've been talking to folks about that I would like to get engaged with to make sure that Alabama has that opportunity. But it requires a couple of things. We've got to maintain a good health care system in this state. We've got pretty good health care here in Birmingham, but out in our rural communities, it's going away. We haven't expanded Medicaid, and when you lose health care in a community, you lose your community. We got to expand the jobs. It's not just K through 12 and four-year colleges. It's trade schools. We've been talking about those educational opportunities and trying to train not just the young people, but the displaced steel workers, the displaced coal miners, people that still need to provide for their families. We can do that. You know, ever since we started this campaign, we have been talking about those issues. I've been traveling across this state, from one end of the state to the other, talking about those very issues. That's why you see this campaign doing so well right now. That's why you see the energy that we have, because people are starting to understand and they realize that this is about our future, not our past. It's about bringing people together to have those dialogues and finding that common ground. Just like those occasions when the steel workers and U.S. Steel would have contract negotiations, sooner or later, they would find common ground so this company could thrive, so that their workers could thrive. That's what we've got to do in the state of Alabama. Continue to find that common ground and completely reject the divisiveness that we have seen and get rid of the divisiveness in this state once and for all. So with that, I want to thank you all again for coming out here today. I'm happy to try to take just a few questions. Somebody's chomping at the bits right here, so I'll go right there.
Thank you so much. So President Trump today endorsed your opponent. Could you give us your reaction to that endorsement and this broader trend we're seeing where national Republicans like Mitch McConnell seem to be warming to him?
Well, look, we're focused right here. Let me tell you about my campaign. I'm not worried about Roy Moore's campaign. I'm not worried about any of that. Let me tell you about the Doug Jones campaign. The Doug Jones campaign is one of the most extraordinary efforts going on right now that this state has seen ever. We've got thousands, literally thousands of volunteers that have been making personal calls, 800,000 plus personal telephone calls, not robocalls. I'm talking about getting people on the phone, talking to them. We've knocked on over 100,000 doors. Our campaign is going straight to the people of Alabama because that's who my voters are. It's not the president. It's not Mitch McConnell. You know, obviously, Mitch McConnell has very little credibility in this state anyway, so I'm not worried about him at all. But I am worried about our voters. I'm worried about the people that used to work at this steel mill. I'm worried about people and where they're going to get their health care. That's why this campaign. So we're continuing our efforts. And we've got 8 days to go, and we're excited about where we are.
Should I follow up on that question?
Yeah.
Yesterday you were saying, in reference to Steve Bannon and Roy Moore, suggesting that there should be an end to the state of politics of divide and division and politics of hate. Many people here in the state that may be considering you Republicans look to Donald Trump as their president, somebody they still respect. So how do you reckon those two statements, the statement made yesterday about politics of hate, with support for Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, remember President Trump ran Steve Bannon out of the White House, okay, because of his politics of division. And that has no place in this country. It has no place in this state. I've said all along, you know, look, I'm an independent voice. I've told folks I can work with President Trump when he wants to do things that are for Alabama and will help the people of the state. I can work with Senator Shelby. I've known Richard Shelby for, you know, a long, long time. He is somebody that I know that I can work with. I think he respects me. I respect him. So when we can find that common ground, we can always work together. That doesn't matter. It's the issues that are important. And I'm not going to get into whether or not people are calling me names. I want to just make sure I can reach out. I'm going to have an opportunity to reach out and to work with people in Washington that Roy Moore will never be able to do.
Sir, about the tax bill that worked its way through the Hill this weekend. Would you support the bill? And what do you think, if any, effect it would have on citizens here in Alabama?
Well, I think I've got concerns. Let me tell you that the tax bill that's out there now, I think, is a little bit better than the tax bill that came out of the House. There are certain provisions. But what I'm concerned about is I'd like to have seen more ability to work together to find that common ground. I don't think that there was a real effort to reach across the aisle to try to find the common ground that I think were needed. There are things about that. The thing that bothers me the most about that tax bill, it's just going to blow up the deficit. I mean, that $1 trillion in deficit that's going to affect my children, my grandchildren, maybe my great-grandchildren that I don't even have yet. That's a real concern to me about both of these bills. But there are certain things in there that I like. I want to make sure, and I really believe that we need to make sure that we give tax cuts for the middle class, not at the expense to give tax cuts for the wealthy. I'm worried a little bit about the bait and switch, that our tax cuts that are given to the middle class right now are only temporary middle class, but the tax cuts for the wealthy seem to be permanent. There just something doesn't seem to be fair about that to the people of Alabama. So we'll see what the final look is going to be. You know, I know there are a couple things, for instance, that the tax bill kind of put back in some ability for teachers to deduct, the supplies that they spend on their schoolrooms. Our teachers have to go out of pocket. And I know the House bill eliminated their ability to deduct up to $250,000. The Senate bill, I think, puts that back in there and raises it. That's the kind of things that I think are going to affect the people of the state.
Is it a good bill for the working class families that you've talked about?
You know, right now I've got some concerns about that. I think that, again, going back to that deficit, I don't think a deficit that creates another $1 trillion in debt is ultimately going to be good for anybody. That may be what comes out of this. I don't know. I've got a real concern. You know, look, I grew up with a senator who every year filed a balanced budget bill. I worked for a president who was the last time we balanced a budget. I got a real concern about our deficit problem right now and growing that any further just to score political brownie points. How about somebody local? Rick, you got something?
What is the final message of this last week as we go into this? And I know you're hitting on it all right now, but going in and trying to get those voters out there. Trying to get voters to generate the excitement to get them out to vote a week from tomorrow.
Well, you know, Rick, I think that the voters that won't compromise, the voters that want to have an effective U.S. senator, voters who want to have somebody that will work with Senator Shelby and not fight them all of the time, I think that message is out there, and I think that those voters are energized. I think that they'll come out because that's what folks look. As a practical matter, this state has seen a crisis in confidence of our leadership. We've had a governor removed. We've had a Speaker of the House convicted. We had another legislator convicted. We've had a Chief Justice now removed from office for the second time. That creates a crisis, and people are tired of it. And they want to see somebody who's not going to embarrass them, that's going to reach across the aisle. And that's what I think is going to energize voters.
Last question, everybody. We're just a week away. Obviously, do you think you can win? And the second part is, with Donald Trump's tweets against you, what do you have to say about that?
I'm sorry, the last part, we got...
With Donald Trump's tweets against you, what do you have to say about
Well, I don't really pay attention to the president's tweets. I'm talking to voters. I'm out there every day. Yesterday we were at a whole bunch of places in Tuscaloosa. We got an incredibly busy schedule. So I don't really pay any attention except for the voters who are going to actually vote for me. I don't think it's not a question of do I think we are going to win. We're going to win this race because we see an energy out there and we feel an energy out there everywhere we go. And that's in part because I am talking to people. I'm out there. I am not hiding. I'm not going and being shrouded by handlers who are going to kick away reporters and other folks that are asking tough questions. I'm talking about my record. I'm talking about his record. Look, folks, we're applying for a job. That's the bottom line. We're applying for a job. And when you apply for a job, you not only talk about what you want to do, you also talk about, here's my resume, here's my record. I'm proud of the record that I have, and I'll take that record any day of the week against someone who's been removed from office twice, taken money from a charity, and now with these just incredible allegations, credible allegations pending against them. So I'm happy where we are. I'm excited where we are. And let me say this. I'm one of these few candidates who actually appreciate the fact that I got media here asking me questions, good questions. I really do, because that's the message. You guys are not fake news. You're the only way sometimes we can get that out here. So thank you all for coming out here today on this lonely 10-mile road that doesn't seem so lonely right now with all the traffic. But again, I just want people to realize that places like United States Steel were what really drove Alabama. And I think we can do that again, but it's going to take everybody coming together, working together, finding that common ground, reaching across the aisles, but together we can do it. So thank you all so much for coming today. I really appreciate it on a cold and windy morning. Thank you all. Thanks to my buddy. I call him Shank.
And that was the Democratic candidate for Alabama Senator Doug Jones talking to the media there. And you hear him talking to the media saying, you are not fake news, and really appreciating the coverage that he has been getting there. So we'll be back here with more news now in just a little bit. You can see taking you live right here to Utah, where President Trump is expected to speak shortly. Once he hits that podium, of course, we'll have it for you right here on News Now and Fox10Phoenix.com. And welcome back here to News Now, taking a live look at Utah's state capitol as we continue to wait for President Trump to announce some big cuts coming to the national monuments. This is President Trump's first visit to Utah, where he is going to announce that he's going to shrink the Bears, Heirs, and Grand Staircase national monuments, and he will be spending less than 3 hours on the ground here in Utah before he heads back to D.C. So he was expected to start this about 10 minutes ago, but sometimes that's always a fluid situation when a president is in town. And of course, we'll have that for you either right here on News Now or fox10phoenix.com once that starts to get going here. Hi everybody, Mike Page here as we continue on with News Now. Before he left for Utah, he did speak to reporters before boarding Marine One right outside of the White House. Let's show you that right here, right now.
President, when did you find out that Mike Flynn lied to the FBI?
Well, I feel badly for General Flynn. I feel very badly. He's led a very strong life, and I feel very badly, John. I will say this. Hillary Clinton lied many times to the FBI. Nothing happened to her. Flynn lied, and they destroyed his life. I think it's a shame. Hillary Clinton, on the 4th of July weekend, went to the FBI, not under oath. It was the most incredible thing anyone's ever seen. She lied many times. Nothing happened to her. Flynn lied, and it's like they ruined his life. It's very unfair. Thank you very much.
When did you find out?
Well, there you go. President Trump saying that they ruined his life. Speaking about General Michael Flynn there, he just spoke that before boarding Marine One, and he's asking, okay, why is nobody from the Department of Justice investigating Hillary Clinton's emails? It seems like he really wants that to get done and is really pushing Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So we'll see if anything comes from that throughout the day or if there's any comment on that. But that was just about a couple of hours ago, President Trump boarding Marine One. Oh, and looks like we're getting some tape playback right now. President Trump meeting with Mormon leaders there in Utah. Let's watch this.
They actually help people to come. This is that food order that the Bishop and Religious Society prepared. They mark down the number of items they should get to everyone in the household, age, and very good. So they've been in the process of filling this order. If you'd like to go to, you'd like to have your house finished, fill it.
Yeah, right now we are taking a look at the Welfare Square where President Trump is meeting with officials from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he's taking a quick tour of the faith's humanitarian efforts for the needy. So you're taking a look right here of President Trump. Looks like he is bagging up some potatoes to put in a cart for some very needy people there in Utah.
Yes.
He's a good man.
All right, as that video continues to go, looks like they just had a couple of moments to film the president there at that welfare league situation there. So it looks like the camera is going away. So we saw a little bit of President Trump there in Utah before he hits the podium there at the state capitol. Of course, we'll have the full dress there on fox10phoenix.com and our Facebook Live as well. Looks like that shot did get reestablished there. Let's listen in just a little bit more, everyone.
All the way to the car.
All right, and look, as I say that, they take the camera away. So we'll have much more on fox10phoenix.com and Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook Live. Well, one of the other big stories, obviously, is still this Russia investigation. Here is the very latest on the reports out of Washington.
Well, choose your topic, and the president tweeted about it this weekend, but it's the tweets involving the ongoing Russia investigation that are getting the most attention. and could have some big implications. The White House may look festive for the season, but inside, President Trump and his Twitter account may make even more waves this morning. Over the weekend, the president traveled back and forth to New York, but there was also a flurry of tweets in the aftermath of last week's indictment and guilty plea from former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn for lying to the FBI. Among them, "I never asked FBI Director James Comey to stop investigating Flynn, just more fake news covering another Comey lie." But Democrats think special counsel Robert Mueller is building a case that Trump may have interfered with an FBI investigation.
I think what we're beginning to see is the putting together of a case of obstruction of justice. And I see it most importantly in what happened with the firing of Director Comey.
No collusion. No collusion.
Now, Trump has long maintained that there was no collusion between his campaign and Russia during last year's election. And so far, there is no evidence that we know of that proves otherwise. But even some of the president's fellow Republicans are uneasy with some of the tweets.
I would just say this to the president. There's an ongoing criminal investigation. Comey may be part of it. You tweet and comment regarding ongoing criminal investigations at your own peril. I'd be careful if I were you, Mr. President. I'd watch this.
The president also tweeted specifically about the FBI, saying that the department's reputation is in tatters. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
All right, always a lot to follow with this administration. While we have a couple of moments here, we're going to show you parts of a speech or a rally, if you will, there in Detroit, Michigan, as supporters of Representative John Conyers coming together to say that he does not need to resign after these sexual allegations here. Let's listen into a little bit.
Solutions like we have had in the past. When Carl Levin penned whistleblower laws and President Solutions like we have had in the past. When Carl Levin penned whistleblower laws. Is sound and fury signifying nothing. So on behalf of, Dr. Charles Gilchrist Adams and all of those people of goodwill who have turned out today, we welcome you to our humble way station. Let us get the dialogue going.
I come back briefly while I am flanked by several members here of the ecumenical community, of the elected community, and the grassroots community, to just share a snippet of what Congressman Conyers means to me. I take great pride of getting my roots in working in politics, even working for city council, but having an opportunity to have and garner from these great soldiers, like the Honorable Teola Hunter that's standing here, like the Honorable Joanne Watson. I work for the late Clyde Cleveland, and so I glean from their strong roots and the tenacity and the grit and the perseverance that they have provided me as a foundation. In my years of working alongside Congressman Conyers, I didn't even have some of the confidence that he helped to tease out in me. We would actually talk about one of the greatest projects that we worked on together was during 2010, Proposal S, when he said he had talked to President Obama personally about the infrastructure dollars that we must bring back to the city of Detroit. And so I went with him and I talked about that. As a former teacher, I needed his help in talking about education reform. He provided that platform. He would challenge me and he would ask me questions. Those that are educators understand what it means to scaffold someone's learning. He would tease out and ask those questions, and then he thrust me into opportunities at Greater Emmanuel.
All right, folks, we are going to step away from that rally there and take you back out to Utah, where it looks like the situation there is going to start to begin any moment now. Let's watch this right now.
Thank you
President Trump, thank you for not being a typical politician and passing us over. Thank you for caring about San Juan County. We may be only 15,000 strong, but we matter. We appreciate you willing to take the backlash from the special interest groups as you stand for the people and the economy of San Juan County and the state of Utah. Thank you to the local grassroots people and to all Utah Navajo community chapters. Without your willingness to share your voice, there have been some long nights and prayers during the process. We came together in unity despite the fact that divisiveness was intended. Your work is the reason we are here today. And I also would like to say thank you to the Sutherland Institute for exemplifying and amplifying our voice to the nation. It is an honor to be here today. As commissioners, we have done all we can to represent and fight for San Juan County and the state of Utah, and importantly for the people. Now it's time to...
All right, and to watch President Trump's speech in Utah, please join us at youtube.com/Fox10 We will have it for you in its entirety. You are watching News Now Live.
To introduce our Governor Gary Herbert. He's been an advocate for our county and the state of Utah and has led with calm and steady hand. We are grateful for your leadership. Thank you for your unwavering support and confidence. Please welcome Governor Gary Herbert.
Thank you, Commissioner Benally, and thanks to all of you. I'll be very brief. This is the time of year when we kind of reflect on our blessings and things that we're grateful for. I'm grateful for the assembly here today, for this significant and historic event, and for all those who've gone to work for a long, long time to bring us to this point. So thanks to all those who've worked so diligently and so hard. I'm particularly thankful today for a man who I've come to grow to appreciate and admire, our Secretary of Interior, who truly is an American hero. I don't know if you know this or not, before he was Secretary of Interior, before he was in politics, he was a Navy SEAL for 23 years in the United States Navy, getting the rank of a commander. You betcha, he's an American hero. 2 Bronze Stars. He's written a book. I'll be a little cheap plug here for his book. It's called American Commander, Serving a Country Worth Fighting For and Training the Brave Soldiers Who Led the Way. He's, in fact, trained people you would know, Marcus Luttrell, Lone Survivor, book and movie. Chris Kyle, American Sniper, book and movie. And American Commander, you get it at your bookstore and read about how he's learned leadership and the ability to, in fact, to problem solve. When he went to southern Utah, as been mentioned, he went by horseback. He went by air. He helicoptered around the area. He hiked the area. He went by Jeep. He went to the nooks and the crannies to take a look at really what is this thing we call Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante. And not only did he observe, but he did something that more politicians need to do, and that's listen. Listen to the people. Find out what's going on. Put that as part of your calculation on what we need to be doing when it comes to the management of our public lands. He's a Westerner. He's from Montana. Big Sky country. He has, in fact, an appreciation for the Western way of life. He understands and appreciates our public lands and that there does deserve protection and better management of our public lands. So again, I appreciate Secretary Zinke's leadership and his expertise, and they're reflected, I think, in the recommendations he's given to President Trump. Let me just finish by saying that I appreciate the fact he's listened to stakeholders of all stripes. He's listened to all of Utahns. He knows that our public lands deserve some special protections, but that the one-size-fits-all mentality that too often comes out of Washington, D.C., misunderstands the variations of our lands. He knows that state, local, and tribal interests, that they know the land best and deserve to be listened to carefully. He knows that facts matter more than slogans, and making sure that we are not taken sway by distortions or misunderstandings or misinformation. And to have his leadership in the Department of Interior is a blessing to all America, and particularly us here in the West. So will you please join me in providing a warm Utah welcome to our United States Secretary of the Interior, the Honorable Ryan Zinke.
Sit down, sit down. So I'm a man of my word. President Donald J. Trump is on his way. Well, thank you, Governor Herbert. I've become an expert in monuments, and the Antiquities Act was never intended to prevent. It was intended to protect. No one loves public land more than I. You can love it as much, but you can't love it anymore. I grew up in the foothills of Glacier National Park. Our public land is for the public to use and not special interests. And as important is this is about us. This is about giving rural America a voice and giving the great state of Utah a voice on how and when and what and why we love our land, but giving the local voice back to America. And the president made a promise. He said he would listen. There's not many presidents that would do what he is about to do. And I've been shot at before, and I don't mind it. But being a Navy SEAL, when you get shot at, you put a little spur in your horse and you charge harder. Because when you get shot at sometimes, you do it for the right reasons, and the president is doing this for the right reasons to make sure Utah has a voice. And the voice is also about our Indian nations. And Commissioner Bonelli, thank you. Thank you for showing me your lands, for walking with you on your sacred lands, and for teaching me that the Navajo Nation is proud. The Navajo Nation. And so with that, I'm going to make my remarks short because I know you didn't come to listen to me. But I want to say thank you for your kind hospitality. Thank you for helping me make great decisions. God bless America. God bless the great state of Utah. And God bless Sascha.
for those of you watching, don't worry. There will be audio. There will be audio for the president's speech. Right now, they're playing some popular music, and we can't stream that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a real privilege for me to be here and an honor to introduce the President of the United States of America. I've been given the redundant task of introducing the most famous man in the world. It's a bit like telling someone what the internet is. If you don't know by now, you've probably been living on another planet. And we'd like to welcome you to planet Earth if you need us to take you to our leader. Well, he's right here. I might mention I'm all set to bring him up here. Humor aside, I'm thankful to be here with our president. He and I have been friends for quite some time, and I'm so grateful that he would accept my invitation to come to my home state of Utah today. I've served under many presidents, 7 to be exact, but none is like the man we have in the White House today. When you talk, this president listens. I learned this during his first week on the job. It was a Wednesday afternoon in January when the president called me into the Oval Office to discuss his agenda for the first 100 days. Immediately, he let me know that he wanted to help the Beehive State. He said, "Orrin, I want to help you. What can I do for Utah?" Well, our state had just been blindsided by the Obama administration's last-minute monument designation at Bears Ears. So I asked for the president's help in fixing this disaster. Without hesitation, he looked me square in the eye, and said, "We'll fix it." For the next several months, I worked closely with the president and the White House on a plan to rein in the federal overreach at Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase. And today, that plan has come to fruition. President Trump is many things. He's the commander-in-chief, a master deal maker, and a wildly successful billionaire. But he's also a man who comes through on his commitments to the people of Utah, and boy, is he coming through here today. I want to thank the president for giving a voice to the hardworking people of Utah who, for too long, have been ignored in the debate over public lands. I'm grateful for his leadership on this issue, and especially grateful that he would join us here in Utah today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the President of the United States.
Thank you to a very special man, Orrin Hatch, for the introduction, and that was truly a nice introduction, and I appreciate it. You are a true fighter, Orrin. I have to say, I've gotten to know him very well. I've gotten to know a lot of people very well. You meet fighters, and you meet people that you thought were fighters, but they're not so good at fighting. He's a fighter. We hope you will continue to serve your state and your country in the Senate for a very long time to come. I want to especially thank you for the tremendous work in ushering massive tax cuts and reform through the Senate. Just happened, and we have a final step to go, and I predict we're going to be very successful. Talking about massive, massive tax cuts. It's tax cuts and reform, but I always mention tax cuts first because that's what people like to hear. We're now one huge step closer to delivering to the American people the historic tax relief as a giant present for Christmas. Remember I said we're bringing Christmas back? Christmas is back bigger and better than ever before. We're bringing Christmas back, and we say it now with pride. Let me just say to those here today and all across the country, Merry Christmas to everybody. And also, happy holidays and a great new year. We're going to have a great, great year. Joining us at this ceremony are many other tremendous leaders from Utah, including your great Senator, Mike Lee. Where's Mike? Mike, come here, Mike. Come here, Mike. Get up here, Mike. He worked along with Orrin and the rest of them. We got it done. Mike, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. You want to say something?
It's not every day the President of the United States asks you to take the microphone from him. But I want to say, Mr. President, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being here. Thank you for standing with the people of Utah. We appreciate it deeply.
Thank you, Mike. I also want to recognize your fantastic representatives who are with us, Rob Bishop, John Curtis, Chris Stewart, and Mia Love. Thank you all. You're here. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. And I have to really talk about a very special guy that I made Secretary of the Interior. Does he know the Interior? He knows it, he loves it. He loves seeing it and writing on it. Ryan Zinke, who truly believes in protecting America. He is protecting America. And nobody loves it more. Ryan, thank you. Just as he protected America as an officer of the legendary SEAL Team 6. He's a tough cookie, and you've done a great job. Thank you, Ryan. Governor Gary Herbert. Where's Gary? Come on, Gary. Come on, Gary. Get over there, Gary, so they can. And your wife, the First Lady, is fantastic. Thank you very much. First Lady. Thank you, First Lady. Attorney General Sean Reyes. Sean, thank you. Thank you. An original supporter of mine. You know, you always remember those original supporters. Greg Hughes. Greg, thank you. He was an original right at the beginning. Thank you, Greg. He had a feeling. Finally, I want to recognize the members of the local Utah Navajo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. We're profoundly honored by your presence here today, and I'm thrilled to be here with so many wonderful friends, so many people that saw something a little special, and they said, we're with him, and I'm really working hard to put it back, and that's what we're doing today. This magnificent capital in your incredible state, and it is special people in a special state. Thank you very much for being here. I've just come from touring Welfare Square with Senator Hatch and some amazing people from the leadership of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Special. I spent a lot of time with them. In fact, I went around the store. I wanted a nice can of tuna fish. And they had plenty. They really help people. Incredible. After our visit, I can truly say firsthand that Utah's awesome natural beauty is exceeded only by the warmth and grace and hospitality of its citizens. This state has many natural treasures, but its greatest treasure by far is its people. And we will ensure the right of the people to live according to the faith in their hearts, which is why we will always protect your religious liberty. And we've been doing that. I know all of you feel blessed to be living among some of the most glorious natural wonders anywhere in the world. You cherish Utah's gleaming rivers and sweeping valleys. You take inspiration from its majestic peaks. And when you look upon its many winding canyons and glowing vistas, you marvel at the beauty of God's great creation. And that is why I'm here today. Because some people think that the natural resources of Utah should be controlled by a small handful of very distant bureaucrats located in Washington. And guess what? They're wrong. The families and communities of Utah know and love this land the best, and you know the best how to take care of your land. You know how to protect it. And you know best how to conserve this land for many, many generations to come. Your timeless bond with the outdoors should not be replaced with the whims of regulators thousands and thousands of miles away. They don't know your land, and truly, they don't care for your land like you do. But from now on, that won't matter. I've come to Utah to take a very historic action, to reverse federal overreach and restore the rights of this land to your citizens. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But before I began, because I understood how big it is, I'm a real estate developer. When they start talking about millions of acres, I say it again. That's a lot. So before I began, I met with Senator Orrin Hatch, who loves Utah and loves the people of Utah. I called Senator Mike Lee, who loves Utah and loves the people of Utah. I called your governor. I called my original, where is he? There he is. I called all of the friends that I have in Utah. I said, what do you think? I said, will this be good for our country, and will it be good for your state? They said this would be incredible for our country, will be incredible for Utah. Finally, you'd be giving people back their access to the land they know, to the land they understand, and most importantly, to the land that they love. I also said, will it be at all controversial? They all told me no. How did that happen? I don't think it is controversial, actually. I think it's so sensible. Therefore, today, on the recommendation of Secretary Zicke, and with the wise counsel of Senator Hatch, Senator Lee, and the many others, I will sign 2 presidential proclamations. These actions will modify the national monuments designations of both Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante. As many of you know, past administrations have severely abused the purpose, spirit, and intent of a century-old law known as the Antiquities Act. This law requires that only the smallest necessary area be set aside for special protection as national monuments. Unfortunately, previous administrations have ignored the standard and used the law to lock up hundreds of millions of acres of land and water under strict government control. These abuses of the Antiquities Act give enormous power to faraway bureaucrats at the expense of the people who actually live here, work here, and make this place their home. This is where they raise their children. This is the place they love. For example, the previous administration designated more than $500 million
acres of land and water, including Bears Ears. It did so over the loud objections of the people of this state and their elected representatives. Governor, right? The results have been very sad and very predictable. Here and in other affected states, we have seen harmful and unnecessary restrictions on hunting, ranching, and responsible economic development. We have seen grazing restrictions prevent ranching families from passing their businesses and beloved heritage on to the children that they love. We've seen many rural families stopped from enjoying their outdoor activities, and the fact that they've done it all their lives made no difference to the bureaucrats in Washington. We have seen needed improvements like infrastructure upgrades and road maintenance impeded and foreclosed. We have seen how this tragic federal overreach prevents many Native Americans from having their rightful voice over the sacred land where they practice their most important ancestral and religious traditions. These abuses of the Antiquities Act have not just threatened your local economies, they've threatened your very way of life. They've threatened your hearts. Our precious national treasures must be protected, and they, from now on, will be protected. Under my administration, we will advance that protection through a truly representative process, one that listens to the local communities, that knows the land the best, and that cherishes the land the most. With the action I'm taking today, we will not only give back your voice over the use of this land, we will also restore your access and your enjoyment. Public lands will once again be for public use. Because we know that people who are free to use their land and enjoy their land are the people most determined to conserve their land. One values the splendor of Utah more than, I'll tell you what, there's nobody out there. I just came in and I'm looking around with Orrin and with Mike and with the governor and with everybody, and I'm just saying, what a beautiful picture it is. But no one values the splendor of Utah more than you do, and no one knows better how to use it. With your help in treating our natural bounty with respect, gratitude, and love, we will put our nation's treasures to great and wonderful use. Families will hike and hunt on land they have known for generations, and they will preserve it for generations to come. Cattle will graze along the open range. Sweeping landscapes will inspire young Americans to dream beyond the horizon, and the world will stand in awe of the artistry God has worked right here in your great state. Together, we will usher in a bright new future of wonder and wealth, liberty and law, and patriotism and pride all across this great land. Thank you to the wonderful people of Utah. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And in your honor, I will now, with your representatives, sign this very, very important proclamation. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Modifying the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument by the President of the United States and representatives. Thank you very much. I think we'll give this one. Thank you. Modifying the Bears Ears National Monument. And we're going to do the following. We have some great people, Governor. Who do I give these to? Mr. Cook, will you sign my hat? I'll sign. He wants me to sign it. Somehow less important. I will do it.
All right, folks, and that's going to do it for the morning session. I know it's already in the afternoon right now. We gave you some bonus coverage right there on News Now. We'll be back with you in just a couple of hours here on News Now.